Am I the asshole here for not making my son forgive my brother after he was uninvited from his wedding? 6 months ago, my son Leo, 14 male, decided to cut off my brother Jack, 46 male. Now my mum, brother, sister-in-law, and other family members want me to make my son forgive him to keep the peace. For a little bit of context, I'm 46 male, a single dad. My family has always helped me in many ways, mostly babysitting when Leo was younger, and even before my son was born, we were all very close. We all live relatively close to each other, so we've been able to keep in touch with weekly gatherings, spending the holidays together, etc. Everyone loves my son, and my son loved them back. However, my brother Jack was always my son's favorite person. Back when my son was 3 to 4 years old, Jack and his wife had more flexible jobs than me. Think freelancing versus a 9 to 5. So they always volunteered to look after Leo, something he loved. Almost every month, they would take him to the zoo or the aquarium, or they'd even go camping with him. As my son grew older, he started to develop the same interests as my brother, like video games, photography, music, etc. When Leo was 9, he told me he wanted to have the same career as his uncle. This is all to say they were extremely close. Last year, my brother informed me that he and his girlfriend Mary were getting married. I knew that neither Jack nor his girlfriend believed in marriage, so when I asked them about it, they told me that it was all Karen's idea, my sister-in-law's mom. Because Jack and Mary didn't care much about the wedding, and since Karen was paying for it, they let her plan everything, from the venue to the food, music, etc. Karen decided to plan a destination wedding at a fancy resort. In July of last year, we received the invitation, and it was addressed to both me and my son. I even had a +1 if I wanted. And as soon as the website went up, I tried to make a reservation for our hotel room. I should clarify that I had to call the hotel to make my reservation because the link wasn't working and I really couldn't risk not getting a room. When I received the email conversation, it said room for 2 adults, but I didn't think much of it and just assumed that it was an error due to the language barrier with the hotel guy. I also bought the plane tickets for us at around the same time. Fast forward to January, less than a month before the wedding, when my sister-in-law called me crying, saying that Karen had made a mistake with the venue. Apparently the result was for adults only, so they didn't allow anyone younger than 16. My son was 13 at the time. I asked her if it would be possible for Leo and I to stay in another hotel, but they told me the whole resort was child-free, so my son wouldn't even be allowed to attend the ceremony or the reception. I was disappointed, and I told my sister-in-law that I'd talk to my son about it, as I knew how excited he was about his uncle's wedding, but she insisted both her and Jack wanted to tell him in person. Honestly, my son was devastated. He started crying as soon as he was told that he wouldn't be able to go. He pleaded with them, and even offered to give them all of his savings so they could move the wedding. After 30 minutes of this, my sister-in-law got frustrated and just told him that he was being selfish and that this day wasn't about him. Leo eventually apologized and went to his room. After the wedding, my son just stopped talking to my brother. If Jack sent him a message, Leo would just ignore it unless it had something to do with me. For example, he would only reply if Jack asked him to tell me something because he couldn't reach me, etc. On our family gatherings, Leo would only respond to small questions like, "Can you pass the salt?" or "Help grandma with the plates." But he would ignore my brother if Jack or Mary tried to start a conversation or ask him about school, etc. A month after the wedding, Jack and Mary offered to take him for a special vacation during spring break to make up for the wedding. But my son just ignored them, and he later told me that he didn't want to go with them. It was heartbreaking because I knew how much he wanted to go to that place, and I wasn't able to afford it yet, but he stuck to his guns. Something similar happened on Leo's birthday. He asked me if I was planning to throw him a party, as I do it every year, and when I said yes, he asked me not to invite his aunt and uncle. I tried to convince him to invite them because they're family, and they were really sorry, but he just said that if they didn't want him on their special day, he didn't want them on his. My brother was crying when I told him that he wasn't invited. However, things came to a head this past weekend. We were at my mum's house and the conversation of Leo's university came up. My mum asked Leo if he was still planning on going to the same university as Jack and that he should start planning for that. But my son replied that he wasn't interested anymore and he had chosen to study something else. Then my mum said, "I thought you wanted to be like your uncle." And my son just said, "Why would I want to be like him?" At this point, I intervened and told Leo that he didn't have to be so rude, but the damage was already done. Both my brother and sister-in-law heard what he said, and they left shortly after. Last night, my brother texted me saying that I was an asshole for letting my son continue with this grudge, and he even accused me of being jealous of their relationship, and that's why I wasn't doing anything to fix it. I just told him that these were the consequences of his actions, and that this was 100% his fault by allowing his piece of shit mother-in-law to plan the wedding when she obviously hated my child. He hung up on me. My mum and some other family members think that I should force my son to forgive my brother so that we can all move on, claiming that there was no ill intent and it was just a small mistake. But I don't think that I should. My son was clearly hurt, and he should be allowed to heal and forgive them only when he is ready. So am I the asshole here? In the comments, not the asshole. I have a hunch that this is less about the wedding and more about the conversation where they called him selfish. To me, that conversation would have done enough damage to ruin the relationship. I'm guessing they never apologized to your son for saying the things they said or reacting the way that they did. He trusted them, and instead of them helping him process this extremely upsetting thing, that was their mistake, they called him selfish and yelled at him and effectively ruined their relationship. They are the adults, and if they want to fix the relationship, they need to stop trying to buy him, and they need to start apologizing and making amends for the hurt and discord that they caused. Your son wasn't rude when he said he didn't want to be like his uncle. He was answering a question honestly. No one should have put him in a position to give an honest answer that he wouldn't get in trouble for. That is incredibly crappy on the adults to do, especially when you called him rude. You are the asshole for that. Get him some therapy. He's been betrayed by some of the most important people in his life. Your son is the only one not the asshole in this situation. You should apologize to him as well for calling him rude when he wasn't. Exactly this. I don't speak to most of my family, including my parents, but my maternal aunt has always been in my corner, and she is my favorite person. She has been married twice, and I was the flower girl at the first wedding, when I was 5, and a bridesmaid at the second. A very casual wedding that no one knew was a wedding until we got there. I was 17 at the time. If she told me that I wasn't invited to her wedding, and I was being selfish, I would have been devastated. Just thinking about it gets me upset. I can't imagine being 13 years old and hearing that. Uncle and aunt owe him a huge apology before forgiveness can happen. Also, not the asshole OP. Let your son know that you're on his side, and he doesn't have to forgive them. He was hurt deeply by them, and is honestly dealing with this in a mature way. I would have gone totally nuclear. If Uncle Jack really loved him, he should have come in person and apologized, and offered some ways to make it up to him. Instead, he just assumed that he would get over it. At 14, hell no. You cannot force someone else to forgive another person. Your child was hurt. You can talk to him, but you can't force your son to forgive. The more people try to make your son, who is only 13, forgive him, the angrier he is going to get. OP says, "This is one of the reasons why I don't want to force an apology out of my son. To be honest, I don't think he'd even listen to me." You might not see this, but if your extended family is as close as you say they are, I would strongly recommend taking your son aside as soon as possible and letting him know that 1, he never has to forgive them, and 2, you are on his side. When I was a kid, my family seemed like this big monolith. If one of them treated me poorly, the others would ignore it or ask me to let it go, because they wanted to be neutral. I really need you to hear that if your goal is staying neutral, your son probably won't see it that way. I agree, if you're trying to stay neutral in this situation, you're really only attacking your own son here. I think this is a time where you need to come together to support him and show him that his worries and his fears and how he feels about your brother is valid. I think people rightly judge you as an asshole for being on the side of the brother a lot, but I don't think you're an asshole for not making your son forgive your brother after he was uninvited from his wedding. He should be free to feel the way he feels and shouldn't be attacked and pressured by everyone else when your brother hasn't made a proper effort with him, I don't think. And now, on to the update. So I've received some messages asking for an update. I appreciate everyone who took the time to comment and send me messages. Some may have been a bit harsh, but I deserved it. Thanks for slapping some sense into me. The short version is that we'll stop going to the family events for a while, and I talked to my brother, and he'll respect my son's boundaries, and he also explained what really happened, and above all, Leo is doing much better now. Here is the longer update in case anyone's interested in the details. Mum and sister. The short of it is that I informed my mum that both Leo and I would stop going to the family gatherings until things calmed down, and more importantly, until he felt comfortable again. She was understandably upset, but I think she finally understood how much she had been hurting Leo. What surprised me is that my mum told me that Jack had become depressed, so she was worried about him, and that's why she was so insistent that Leo should forgive him. I basically told her that if we forced Leo to forgive my brother, we risked pushing him away from us. As for my sister, she was also sad when I told her that we'd stop going to the family gatherings, but she said she understood. However, she suggested that we make our own weekly tradition so the children can still hang out, and that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. We decided my nibblings would come to my house one week, and then Leo would hang out at hers the next. So far, it seems to be working, and Leo is happy with this arrangement. I think it helps that he isn't being pressured by the adults expecting him to talk to his uncle. On Jack and Mary, the weekend after I posted here, I texted my brother asking him to meet me so we could talk. I had told him that I wanted to speak with him alone, so Mary wasn't present. Jack immediately apologized and said how much he regretted what he had done and the things that he had told me. He confirmed what I already suspected and said he was stressed because of the constant fights with Mary. He mentioned that he had considered divorce because of how bad the fights got. I may seem cruel here, but I basically told him that I didn't care about that. What I wanted was for him to tell me the truth about what the hell had happened. Jack maintains that he didn't know about the venue being child-free until last November. However, like many of you had suspected, Mary had known for quite a while, maybe even the whole time. Apparently, this all started a few years back when Jack and Mary took Leo to the beach. While they were playing, my son had accidentally called Jack Dad before quickly correcting himself. From what Jack told me, it was a small mistake like when you call a teacher Mum. Leo was embarrassed, but Jack laughed it off. The catch? Jack's mother-in-law Karen and father-in-law had joined them for that vacation, and they overheard Leo when that happened. When they came back from their vacation, Karen had gone ballistic, claiming she was triggered by some random kid calling Jack Dad, knowing that Mary can't have children. Mary had tried to explain that it was just a misunderstanding, but Karen became extremely toxic and abusive towards Mary, and she started making demands like not inviting Leo over when Karen visited, etc. So when Jack and Mary decided to get married, since they initially just wanted to elope and not have a party at all, Karen manipulated Mary and convinced her to let her plan the perfect wedding for her only daughter. Mary gave in because she was sick of several years of emotional manipulation, and she just wanted to keep the peace. So Karen hijacked the wedding, and she chose the child-free venue on purpose. Mary discovered this when the venue was booked, or shortly after, but she didn't say anything because every time she tried to argue, Karen would play the victim and stuff. Mary claimed that she had tried to negotiate with the resort that an exception be made so the children could attend the ceremony and reception, even if they stayed in a different hotel, but the manager stood firm on the policy. But the closer they got to the date, the more anxious she got until she finally admitted the truth to Jack in November. According to my brother, Mary exploded to Leo because of all the constant bullying and manipulation from her own mother, and she also felt extremely guilty by letting things get that far. For his part, Jack said that if he had found out before, he would have stepped in and cancelled the wedding rather than exclude Leo and my sister's children. But by that point, a lot of people had already booked their flights and hotel rooms, so cancelling wasn't an option. In the end, I told my brother that none of that excused the way that they had behaved, especially his wife. She was a 40-plus-year-old woman picking a fight with a kid. She had yelled and called him selfish when all Leo wanted was to offer the £2,000 that he had saved so that he could be a part of Jack's special day. I reminded him that Leo looked up to him and considered him his hero, and he had let him down. He had shown Leo that he wasn't important to him the way that Jack was important to Leo. I also told him that I would keep supporting Leo on going no contact, and I'd be going low contact with him myself. He asked me for a chance to apologize to Leo, but I told him he had already apologized. All he could do now was wait to see if one day my son would accept his apology. Jack seemed hurt, but he told me that he would respect our wishes and give us time and space. Leo. As for my son, I apologized for not standing up for him and forcing him to meet with the family every week. I told him that he could decide what he wanted to do with that part of the family going forward. He seemed reluctant to stop going, but I let him know that I would support him no matter what, and that I wouldn't be upset. What made me happy was that Leo suggested we could stop going to the family every week, and instead, we could spend more time together. He and I, doing some of the things that he used to do with my brother. Last week we went to a vintage car show, and next week we're going to watch Wicked. I'm not a theater guy, but it sounds fun. I also told him that I was worried he had stopped doing things he liked, and that he shouldn't stop just because he had a falling out with someone that he cared about. Basically told him that it was okay to still enjoy things by himself or with someone else. He admitted he actually wanted to do those things, but stopped just to spite Jack. I decided to give him an early Christmas gift and bought him some games that he had been excited about, but he had refunded after the fight with my brother. He even convinced me to play some Final Fantasy Online games with him on his PS5 while he plays on the PC. I admit I have no idea what I'm doing on that game since the latest Final Fantasy I played was still in 2D, but he seemed to enjoy watching me fail. Any advice here is welcome. Finally, we decided to take a trip to his dream destination for my birthday. I was a little bit sad because it's going to be the first time in almost 50 years that I don't celebrate a birthday with my brother, but I've got my son, and that's all that matters. So yeah, Leo is happier and less stressed about the family. Speaking of which, I think the family is finally respecting our boundaries, so that's good too. I just hope my brother can work on his marriage. I may hate what they did, but I do want him to be happy. In the comments, I'm really glad that you apologized directly to him for not standing up for him in front of your family. I think that really meant a lot to him. Your brother may be very sorry, but at the end of the day, he stood by his wife when she was insulting a child, and he stood by her when the secret about the venue was revealed, and every day since. That's what Leo remembers and will never forget. Have a great vacation, and I wish the best for you and your son. Agreed. His wife being a doormat to her mother doesn't excuse her blowing up and lashing out at a child, or lying to her future husband. I don't have much hope for this marriage. Brother knows what manipulative witches they are. When manipulation doesn't work, it will escalate to abuse. He really would have been better off canceling. I'm glad Leo declined the trip. I could see Mary doing things that she'd later lie about. I hope she's worth everything Jack has lost because of her. Of course, getting his sibs and nibs out of the picture was likely a part of the master plan. Keeping the peace is such a horseshit excuse. At best, it enables toxic people to continue their toxic behaviors because conflict is uncomfortable, and at worst, it causes situations like this to occur. OP's brother had plenty of opportunity to stand up for his nibblings and failed to do so. The find out stage is where he belongs until OP's son decides otherwise. I met my brother's college girlfriend at my sister's wedding. 9 months later, she was a no-show to my wedding where he was my best man. I later found out from my parents that she refused to attend because it was in our home state with lots of friends and family. My sister's wedding was at her university and was immediate family and local friends only, and that she threatened to break up with him if he was gone for more than X amount of time, so he had to cut short his last summer vacation. 5 years later, I was the best man at his wedding to someone else. Being the bigger person is another one that I really dislike. It only enables toxicity since toxic people don't even understand it. Abusers expect it so they can continue their abuse. Am I wrong for not sharing with a female colleague that I make much more than her? So I, 24 male, work at a company where I've been since last October. I make £31,200, which I think is pretty decent, especially considering I only work 195 days a year. Recently, a situation came up that's been bothering me, and I'm wondering if I handled it wrong. I've got this colleague Sarah, 39 female, who's been in the industry for 13 years. She's got a master's degree, whereas I only have a bachelor's, and we do the exact same job, same title, same responsibilities, same working hours. But here's the kicker. Sarah makes £25,350. Now, when I started last October, I was earning $26,325, and since then, I've managed to negotiate a couple of raises. One brought me up to $29,250, and the latest one got me up to $31,200. I got the first raise after I spoke to my supervisor, and the second one because I was considering leaving for another job, and they offered to up my salary to keep me. The other day, Sarah asked me about my salary. Out of the blue, she just shared hers with me without me even asking. I was a bit taken aback and didn't really want to get into it, so I told her I wasn't comfortable discussing my salary. She made a little fun of me, but then we just moved on. Later, I mentioned this to my girlfriend, and she told me that I was a huge asshole for not being upfront with Sarah. She said that Sarah has a right to know, especially since she's clearly more experienced and qualified, and yet I'm earning more. My girlfriend thinks that it's not fair and that I should have been honest. But honestly, I just didn't want the drama. Plus, I'm worried that it might get back to our supervisors, and that could put me in a bad spot. I guess that it might seem unfair from Sarah's perspective, but I really didn't want to cause any issues at work. So am I the asshole for not telling her how much I make? In the comments, Willy Wonka says, maybe it's because I'm not an American, but sharing earnings is always better for employees. Normalizing sharing what you get paid improves the position of all workers in the long term. North American here, we don't share salary information in general, as you alluded to. But I think we should for reasons stated all over these comments. And that only helps your employer, but I understand it because it was drilled in us not to share our salaries by, guess who, our employers. I recently worked for a company that knows that was wrong and actually had posters up encouraging people to discuss it if they wanted to. It's better to discuss it because it helps you and everyone else overall. OP says, I'm not American. I'm American, and I believe in workers having transparency. Too many employers take advantage of workers. She should have all the information. You know what's happening is not right. Are you choosing to stay quiet because the situation benefits you? I'd tell her, the drama doesn't have to lead back to you. She might just try and find a better paying job, but she needs to know that she's being taken advantage of. That kind of money could be the difference between having kids or not having them, paying medical bills for a family member or not. You can have a huge positive impact on her life, even if the knowledge might hurt short term. I agree. I think there's no harm in sharing that salary, as long as you're like, hey, but don't say that I told you so. Think of a better way around it so that I'm not in trouble. Because I can see why you're hesitant to not get in trouble by your boss. Her going straight to them and being like, OP just told me that they're making £5,000 a year more than me? This is outrageous. Yeah, I can see why the OP is hesitant to not say that, and I understand the argument as well. It's like you shouldn't be scared of sharing your salary because everyone deserves to make more, especially given the current climate, and I agree with you there, yes. And I would hope that North Americans get more labor union kind of movement so that their boss can't retaliate against them for sharing information that should be shared, but hey, I can still see why you would be scared to share the information. I would be too. But you would be an asshole for not sharing with a female colleague, OP. Yes, you would. And now, on to the updates. Hey everyone, I wanted to provide an update on the situation I posted about earlier regarding my colleague Sarah and the salary discussion. First off, thanks to those of you who shared your thoughts. It really made me reflect. Most comments did see reason, however, a few were stuck on pointlessly assigning gender reasons for everything. So I had a proper chat with my girlfriend about everything, and she apologized for calling me an asshole. She admitted she didn't fully understand why I handled it the way that I did, and realized that it was inappropriate for Sarah to just ask me about my salary out of the blue. We both agreed that my approach wasn't wrong, and she now sees that discussing personal finances in the workplace can cause unnecessary drama. which is what I was trying to avoid. My girlfriend and I are going on a date tonight, and she is paying as a way of apologizing. After that, Sarah and I ended up having another conversation, and she actually apologized for putting me on the spot. She acknowledged that asking about my salary was crossing a line. It was good to clear the air, and we left it at that, no hard feelings on either side, even though I'm going to keep my distance from her, as she clearly doesn't understand normal workplace boundaries. Now, for those curious, yes, I am making more than her despite her having more experience, and frankly, it all boils down to negotiation. I know a lot of people out there assume gender plays a role, but it really doesn't. I've always been strategic about asking for raises at the right time, and I have no problem negotiating for what I believe I'm worth. It's not about who you are or what degree you have, it's about how you advocate for yourself in the workplace, and I've been pretty good at that. It isn't my issue if others aren't good at that, but I am not going to put myself in a bad light and potentially stop myself from getting future raises. Anyway, things are back to normal at work now, and I'm glad that I stood my ground. No awkwardness, no drama, just a better understanding of boundaries. Thanks again for the support. In the comments, quote, I know a lot of people out there assume gender plays a role, but it really doesn't. It really does? What a delusional thing to say. People like you are why the struggle for pay equality is still a huge problem. Shitty employers rely on the "I'm alright, Jack" attitudes of twats like you so that they can exploit others. The more people talk about wage inequality and challenge it, the sooner the playing field will be level. You need to Google women penalized for negotiating salary. OP says you need to Google confirmation bias. You mean like 3 people agreed with you, so in your mind, that overturns decades of sociological research? That kind of confirmation bias? Explain to me how your job isn't sexist. She has more experience and knowledge, yet you are making more. It has nothing to do with negotiation. It's clearly a fake post if you don't understand that your job is sexist. Exactly. It's not pointlessly assigning gender reasons. He is absolutely paid more because he is a man. He just doesn't want to admit that. I think it is much more so the gender bias here, and I don't have enough experience in this at all because I'm not a negotiator myself. I have no experience in negotiating contracts and pay. So I'm talking out of my ass here, please take it with a grain of salt. I would presume that what the commenter earlier said about women getting punished for negotiating salary is correct, and that OP was being a bit of a dick, saying, oh, confirmation bias actually. You women just need to read the art of the deal and just become better at that. I'm split between thinking whether Sarah has asked for pay raises before and been rebuffed for it, or if Sarah hasn't asked for pay raises because she's been scared that she will get punished. Feels like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of moment right there. I don't really know the answer honestly, but I still completely disagree with OP because the sooner that we have more pay transparency, the sooner that we can come together and, collectively bargain on things. Communist Marcus right here. The better conditions will be for all employers. And the faster we can get replaced by AI. Who's looking forward to that, hey? 3 cheers for that. Hip hip hooray. Our next post is by user GladLengthiness7382, titled, Am I the asshole for being sarcastic to my fiance's mother when she made uneducated comments about South Africa? I'm 27 female from Johannesburg, South Africa. My fiance Will, 27 male, is American. We met in 2018 during my MSc, Masters of Science, in England. We dated briefly, but lost touch after. In 2021, he reconnected with me via Instagram, and our relationship blossomed. He's visited South Africa a few times, and I visited him in New York once. In May 2024, he proposed to me during a visit to Johannesburg, and I happily accepted. Recently, I got time off work and visited him in New York again. We also planned a trip to Atlanta to meet his family, who I hadn't met before. I was excited but nervous. At first, everything seemed fine. His family welcomed me with a big dinner. However, his mother and aunt made some stereotypical and uneducated comments about South Africa, which I found amusing but also slightly irritating. They kept asking why I sounded British and even compared me to Hermione from Harry Potter. Then his mother said, I'm honestly wondering how you're South African if you're not black. I didn't even know that there were white people in South Africa.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Me when America is the only country that exists in the world?
Hoorah, Americentricism. As a naturally witty and sarcastic person, I responded without thinking, saying something like, "Yeah, we just magically appeared there one day, like, poof." In hindsight, I can see how this might have been the wrong approach, but it was my immediate reaction. His mother and aunt were clearly offended, and the evening became awkward. Will noticed the tension and got upset. When he drove me back to my hotel, he started ranting about how disrespectful I was to his mother and aunt. He talked about how important respect is in his family and didn't let me explain. I apologized, still confused because I didn't think much of my comment at the time. It was meant to be light-hearted. However, Will raised his voice, expressing his disappointment and saying that we would talk about it later. And since then, he hasn't responded to my messages or come back to the hotel to speak to me. Now I'm wondering if I really was out of line. I didn't mean to be disrespectful, but I didn't expect them to be so sensitive. So, am I the asshole? In the comments, Natural Garbage 7674 says, "Not the asshole. It's unfortunate, but one of the things South Africa is best known for is its policies of segregation and ongoing racial tensions. If they are so insular that they don't know basic international politics, then that's their problem, and my bet is that they're upset that you called them out for their personal failure to care about anything beyond their own lives." Your fiancé's response is problematic. His family spent a long time questioning your very existence and being ignorant of you and your country, and he didn't step in. When you called them out on it, he blamed you. You need to communicate well about this. This is not the standard that you want to set. It's crazy to think that people have no idea about Africa having so many different cultures and the history of South Africa specifically. As for OP's accent, if they traveled anywhere outside of the US, they would run into so many English/English as a second language speakers, they'd realize British English is the most prevalent. I think if my son was dating a person from another country, I'd be studying up on it like crazy to avoid asking stupid questions. I'm holding my tongue on so many insults here. Me when I assume the family cares about me? South Africans sound British or Australian to Americans. I've been asked several times by Americans I've met. Also, we're an ex-British colony. Not the asshole. It's not your fault that his parents were somehow unaware in 2024 that there are white people in South Africa. Surely they have known about you for years and knew that they were about to meet you. There was a time to get their facts straight about your home country, and that was any time before you walked in the door. Your fiancé absolutely should have stood up for you, and I don't know how he didn't ever consider telling his parents more about South Africa before they met you. Or why he didn't back you up and ask them why they thought that that was an appropriate question to ask, especially in the age of everyone having tiny computers in their back pockets. If any people in America that are parents, at least 25 to 35 years old plus, aren't aware of Nelson Mandela and apartheid, they are ignorant enough to be made fun of to their face. I don't even think that's a question of, oh, blame the American school system for that one, it doesn't teach us anything. I thought Bangladesh was a hockey team. Like, no, idiots like those people do deserve to be called out to their face and made fun of because you have computers in your pocket where you can search something that you would like any time of the day. Maybe it's just TikTok brain and lack of curiosity that's getting to these people. And I don't think I'm better than these people. I don't say that from a place of, I'm better than you. I advocate for workers' rights. You advocate for workers' wrongs. No, that was an incredibly ignorant thing for them to have said. Oh, I didn't know that there was white people in South Africa. My sisters in Christ, come on. Please, come on. Have they seriously been living under a rock their entire life? And what is with OP's fiancé not standing up for her? This whole family has a really weird dynamic that I'm not cool with. Because why didn't he just go, hey, haha, whoa, funny jokes there, OP, that was a good one. Hey, mum and auntie, yeah. Let me educate you about South Africa for a little bit so that you guys know what you said was wrong. That would have been chill, but no, he chose not to do that. Very weird. And now, on to the update. Hi everyone, it's been a long day, and I just wanted to update you all since many of you asked what happened. After a restless night, Will called me at around 9 this morning, saying he was coming to the hotel to talk. I was still angry. Last night he gave me the silent treatment after I messaged him multiple times, and now he wants to talk on his terms? But I figured that we needed to sort this out. When he arrived, I didn't let him speak first. I told him how hurt I was by his actions, especially how he shut me out instead of addressing the situation. He apologized, admitting he felt insecure about his family's ignorance and behavior, and took it out on me. He promised to make it up to me, though I completely forgot to ask him why he didn't prepare them beforehand, or at least tell them more about me being South African. He also mentioned that one thing about me that he struggles with is that I can be a bit too masculine in the sense that I don't back down, admit when I'm wrong, or know when to stay silent.
Excuse me. Whoa, buddy. Stand back for a second. What do you mean by that? Brother's on some red pill shit right there.
And this apparently caused problems for him last night. Me not holding my tongue with that quip was embarrassing to him as a display to his family. This links back to something that he's mentioned before about how I never get too emotional or cry. He confessed that last night when he dropped me off, he was actually on the verge of tears, so he left like that. He admitted that he shouldn't have, and that it was wrong of him to leave like that, especially after what had just occurred. But then he insisted that I needed to apologize to his mother and aunt. I flat out said no, but he kept pestering me, saying he didn't want his fiancé's first meeting with his family to end on a bad note. Think of how it looks for me, he says. I eventually, albeit reluctantly, agreed. So, I got ready, and we headed over to his parents' place. The car ride was awkward. He kept trying to make small talk about what happened after he dropped me off. We arrived at the house, and honestly, the feeling of dread just hit me again. His aunt was there again, and from what I gathered, she came back specifically to receive my apology. Will's sister, who was there last night, was not there, but the aunt came back just for this, which I found a bit much, as this was clearly very important to her to hear me apologize. His dad greeted me, but his mum and aunt were clearly waiting to have their say. They talked about how hurt they were by my comment, and I apologized, saying I didn't mean to offend them. I just didn't know how to respond to what they said last night, and made a joke that wasn't meant to be disrespectful. But they couldn't leave it at that. They started lecturing me about how I was poorly raised in South Africa for speaking to elders like that, calling me ill-mannered. That is when I'd had enough. I turned away from them, and they freaked out. I walked away as they continued ranting. Will tried to grab my arm and tell me that I wasn't acting properly, but I pulled away and he let go. I walked out of their home and they all followed me, his mum and aunt loudly commenting and Will trying to talk to me. His father just stood there on the veranda, watching the whole scene unfold. Much to my chagrin, Americans say veranda. It was probably the most embarrassing moment of my life. I felt like their neighbors would come out to see what all the fuss was about. I asked Will to drive me back to the hotel, but he refused and just kept lecturing me, so I called an Uber. Waiting for it was incredibly awkward, with all of them continuing to go on. I eventually got back to the hotel, immediately cancelled my flight back to New York with him, and booked a later flight for myself. I checked out of the hotel and waited at the airport until my flight. Now I'm with my friend in New York. Will's been messaging me non-stop since, so I blocked him on everything. He'll probably continue to annoy me on all my social media and love bomb me when I get back to Johannesburg, but I'll deal with it then. Oh, and I left my thermos, which is sentimental to me because it has a lot of stickers that I've collected over the years at his flat, which he's not likely going to return to me, but oh well. On a brighter note, I'm planning to enjoy the rest of my holiday with my friend in New York. Thanks to everyone for your comments and messages, and a special thanks to the user who recommended restaurants in New York City. My friend also read my post and agreed with those of you who were skeptical about long-distance relationships. She had wanted to tell me her concerns for a long time. Thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate the support, advice, and sweet messages. In the comments, PureStop5979 says, "That guy's pathetic. I'm a vindictive asshole, so I would have told them, he begged me to apologize to you two. I didn't want to, and you somehow managed to F this up for him, you ignorant idiots. Hell, now that I think about it, you can tell him as well, you begged me to apologize when you knew I didn't want to or needed to. I did, and yet somehow those two managed to screw this up for you. Enjoy your life with them and without me. That would make for an interesting Thanksgiving at the Arsehatses. I agreed to apologize, not to be lectured. You lied to me. Enjoy trying to find a slave because that's what you want, not a partner. Your initial comment wasn't even rude. They didn't want a relationship with you. This was their plan all along. They baited you into an attack, and when you responded, they played the victim. It's called reactive abuse. You don't need this toxic family in your life. Quote, he also mentioned that the one thing about me that he struggles with is that I can be a bit too masculine in the sense that I don't back down, admit when I'm wrong, or know when to stay silent. Those words told you exactly what kind of guy he is, OP. He expects you to be a submissive doormat with no feelings or expectations. Also, his family berating you for being poorly raised really means that they have no respect for you. They treat you like a savage. Good on you for dumping his ass. Shame about the bottle, though. Exactly. He wants her to be obedient and submissive, and he wanted her to grovel to his family when she had nothing to apologize for, and then to just stand there meekly while they double down on insulting her, all because the only thing he cares about is how he looks. What a pathetic little worm. She is so well rid of his whole trash family. Another fine example of respect your elders while the elders are being hateful as hell. And that ex that wanted her to be less masculine? Vomit. A thermos is a small price to pay for her freedom. It's hilarious that her ex had an expectation of femininity that his mum and aunt don't display. I hope, against all odds, that she gets her thermos back. For real. Because it's so ladylike to demurely shit-talk someone at first meeting, and then assemble for what is basically her public humiliation. What a flock of old bullies. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend's friend has a problem with me asking him not to sleep in a bed with another woman. Hi everyone. My boyfriend has a big group of friends with a lot of girls in it. A lot of times after they go out or have too much to drink, they'll crash at someone's house. One night, he came home and shared that he slept in a bed with this girl, who the texts are from. We did not have a fight at all. I know he's a grown-up doing this. I told him that I wasn't super comfortable with that, and asked if he could not do that. To which he did not argue at all, and expressed total respect for my boundary. We've not spoken about it since. She texted me the morning after they went out, which are these pictures. Am I overreacting by telling her she's overstepping, or are her concerns valid? Here's the transcript of the text messages. The other woman says, Hi OP, so last night when your boyfriend and I went out, we three and all went back to Redacted's house, and OP's boyfriend and I were going to take the pull-out couch, and he let me know that you were not comfortable with him sleeping in a bed, quote-unquote, with me. While I totally understand, I want to let you know that I have never tried to do anything with your boyfriend and would never. I felt bad that he had to sleep on the floor, and it just didn't seem fair to him. I promise there is nothing nefarious about us sleeping in a bed together. We've been friends for 16 years. OP replies, Hey Redacted, I know nothing has ever happened between you two. Don't worry. For me, it's just a matter of what I feel is appropriate in my personal relationships. I trust him fully, but for me, I'm just not comfortable with him sharing a bed with another woman, even if he's known her for a while. It doesn't speak to either of you in terms of trustworthiness, it's just my boundary. The other woman says, Right, but he had to sleep on the ground. That doesn't seem fair, and he has back problems, so I'm sure he wasn't happy about it either. OP says, if it was a problem for him, he could have called me to pick him up, or Ubered home, or talked to me about it. He hasn't mentioned it to me. And the other woman says, okay, well, if I'm just being super transparent, it just feels like it's really over-the-top possessiveness, and it's not a good look for either of you. You can trust to sleep in a bed with his girlfriends, and seeing him sleep on the floor makes me sad for him. I really like you and the two of you together, but I know him very well, and just wanted to give you an idea of how this might be affecting him/those around him. And OP says, redacted, while I appreciate how much you care for my boyfriend, honestly, I feel like you're overstepping. This is not your business, and I find it strange that you're being a little insistent on demanding that he sleep in a bed with you. He agreed to this boundary wholeheartedly, and that's all you need to know about it. It's my relationship, and he knows he can come to me if he has a problem with it. I'm done talking about this with you. And the other woman sends a thumbs up. Additional information from OP. I don't know if anyone will see this, but my boyfriend has not seen this yet. I know it's going to be stressful for him, and I don't want to ruin his workday. In the comments, someone says, what the hell? You're in the right. This is weird on so many levels on her part. And OP says, thank you. It's hard because his friend group is so deeply intertwined. They've done long camping trips together, everyone sharing tents and being hippies. So while I recognize this as an unusual behavior in the group, I feel it shouldn't matter to them if he's agreeing to it. Someone else says, not overreacting. You're allowed to have boundaries, and I can't imagine arguing with another person over their boundaries in a relationship. I also wouldn't want my boyfriend sharing a bed with another woman. It looks so weird for her to argue with you this hard on it. But also, why is your boyfriend discussing stuff about your relationship with her? It's none of her business. And OP says, thank you. I think he probably just let her know why he suddenly will not share a bed with her, as it's something that he's done with everyone in his friend group throughout his life. Third commenter says, not overreacting at all. Why does she feel so comfortable texting you about this? Do you know her? I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle here, because I can't imagine some strange girl texting me about sleeping in the same bed with my man and getting away with it. You're also far nicer than I would have been. And OP says, yeah, we've hung out quite a few times. We're friends by proxy. OP on her boyfriend being friends with the opposite sex says, I mean, I'm not going to tell him he can't be friends with his lifelong friends just because they're women. I think your opinion on opposite-sex friendships is a projection of what's happening in your head around your feelings towards women, not what reality is for most people. If I didn't respect his friendships, I wouldn't let him see her. I feel like my boundary is more about sleeping in a bed with women than with her specifically. OP clarifies up on why her boyfriend didn't take an Uber or a ride home himself after the concert and the bar. This has been asked a lot, so I'll clear it up here. They all went back to one of the guy friends' house after they went to a concert and a bar or two after. I'm okay with that as long as he is safe. I had an early morning this morning, so his intention was to not wake me up. OP on her age and her boyfriend's age and how long they've been together. He's 31, I'm 27, we've been together for 1.5 years. I wouldn't ask him to stop being friends with his girlfriends. They are very important to him, and honestly, I love that he has so many women who care about him. I personally think it's a red flag when men don't have women to vouch for their character. I like that they all feel safe with him. And yeah, I don't think you're overreacting either. I think he's shown nothing but respect for you. I think if he had a problem, he would have voiced it, like you said, and this woman seems to be the one with the problem. Don't know exactly why she has a stick up her ass, but it's good that you are reinforcing your boundary here and being like, well, I'm not talking about this with you any further. If you want to continue to project your own issues about my boyfriend, I'm not going to allow that to happen. You may be one of his lifelong friends, yes, but you are still a delusional woman, and I'm not going to waste my time with you. Good on you, OP. You have a solid head on your shoulders, a solid spine to back it up. I don't even know why you're coming to ask us about that, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I do love the drama. And now, onto the updates. Hi everyone, I have updates for you. Unfortunately, no text messages to show because he called her, so this will just be text. So I showed him the texts, and he literally could not believe it at first. I've never seen him get mad, but his face got red, and he was really quiet for a moment. He said he was mortified by her behavior toward me. He asked 1,000,000 times if I was okay. He said that she argued with him about it at the time because it's never been an issue, and he just brushed her off. I asked what exactly he said to her, and his words were, "I said it makes you uncomfortable, and I want to respect that." I'm cool with that response to her, personally. He called her immediately and told her that she crossed a line and needed to apologize to me, that her behavior makes it seem like she's trying to sabotage his relationship, and then he was honest with her that most of the friends' girlfriends don't like her and she needs to reevaluate how she's making people feel. I was surprised by this because he's typically not confrontational like that. I didn't hear her responses as she was not on speaker. They spoke about it for like 5 minutes. It wasn't the blow-up that some of you wanted. He was clearly not happy though. My favorite thing he said was, "You're doing a great job of pushing people away. No one wants the drama." He told her what's most important is that she apologizes to me, and then he hung up. That was it. I've not received a text from her yet, and I'm not sure yet what he's going to do regarding their friendship, but it's surely very damaged now. There is no doubt that she will be out and about with her whole group at various points. I'm really not threatened by her. I can deal with a crazy woman and trust him enough to deal with her as well. She doesn't hold any sway over him. So that's all I have for you guys. Sorry. If you're interested, I'm answering a few questions that were asked a lot in the original post. A couple of things to clear up now that I've spoken to him about it. 1, he took the cushions from the couch, which is where the pull-out bed is, and made himself a bed on the ground. Dude had a comforter and pillows and everything. This is hilarious to me because why was she so concerned about his back then? I bet that shit was more comfortable than the pull-out couch. It's also worth noting that he's the kind of guy that could fall asleep doing a handstand. He can literally fall asleep anywhere at any time. 2, he doesn't have back problems. He twinged something in his back at the gym last week and it'll clear up soon. I don't know what she's on about with that, which I should have specified in my original post. 3, I don't want to get defensive, but I want to clarify that I didn't demand that he doesn't sleep in a bed with women. I asked him about it. He agreed because it's not a necessary activity in his life. It's an easy one for him to cut out. His words are that he literally has no problem not sleeping in a bed with the girls. We are very open, and if something arises where that's the only option, I'm fine with that. 4, there was a lot of debate about this rule I set, and it was interesting to read how differently everyone feels about it. It's not that I don't trust him, it's that I find sleeping next to someone to be very intimate. I think it's an important part of a relationship to be unconscious next to each other. I'll often wake up kind of intertwined with him, and in my opinion, it's too intimate a thing to be doing with other women. Some other examples of this could be, you get hurt if your partner always goes to their friend for advice before you, or if they go out to a romantic restaurant together. It's not sexual, but maybe crosses a line in intimacy. 5, I also don't want to share too much about her because I don't want to dox everyone, but she is known to be extremely jealous as all of the friends are starting to settle down with their partners. I'm not shocked that this happened. And 6, I will not be showing him or her this thread. Sorry. In the comments, your boyfriend had the proper reaction and response to her. Glad to see that it was a one-sided concern on her part. I wish y'all the best of luck. It's hilarious to me that some people think the rule of your boyfriend not sharing a bed with another woman is something no one else shares. Like it's normal for someone in a committed relationship to share a bed with someone of the opposite sex. I'm 40 and literally don't know anyone, even in my 20s, that had close friends of the opposite sex that would be okay with their significant other sharing a bed with someone else. Why would anyone put themselves in a situation where their character could be called into question? Everyone has the right to have whatever boundaries they want in a relationship that makes them feel secure. I'm glad your boyfriend had the wherewithal to call out his friend for getting involved in y'all's relationship. Another commenter says, you reacted beautifully. Your boyfriend reacted beautifully. Very strong couple. I hope things work out for the both of you in the long term. A verb is a word says, this is so bizarre to me. Imagine thinking that don't share a bed with other women is an outlandish request. I'm glad the actual couple were on the same page. 41 Flavors and Then Some says, I can all too easily picture this friend lamenting, "I thought you, OP, were cool, but you're just like the other girlfriends, possessive and toxic." That girl needs to be kicked out of the friend group. I'll be surprised if she isn't before a season passes. Yeah, she really is out of her mind thinking that the hill that she's deciding to die on is one that other people are going to support her on. Like, you're out of your mind thinking that, oh, it's not weird for your boyfriend to sleep in the same bed with me. Go on then, go talk to the rest of your friend group that you're obviously on such good terms with and ask them if they think it'd be okay for their partners to sleep with someone like her. A single woman and a taken man in the same bed together. Is that an acceptable thing? Because I'm gonna promise you, everyone's gonna say no. I just love how stupid and unhinged some people can be. It's truly fascinating. We're really leaping into new territory every day, aren't we? As always, thank you for the story, OP. I very much appreciated that one, and I'd love to know what you guys have to say about this one down in the comments below. Let me know. Our next post is by user Battery Mad, and it's titled, "My boss hinted me to sleep with her." I'm sorry, I just had to. "And I, 31, still don't know how to feel, how it happened, and why she wants this. She's 47, married, and I've been working with her for 3 years, and until last week, our relationship was very good, but strictly professional. The most that had happened between us is a kiss on the cheek when she greeted me in the morning, as she does with almost everyone. She and I spend a lot of time together, as over time, she made me her right hand, taking me to meetings and meals very often, sometimes just us. I've met her husband, 51, and we get along very well. From what I've seen, they have a good life and a great marriage, and I can understand where this came from. She asked me to have lunch with her, as we always do, but this time she kept looking at me, asking about intimate details about me, all ending in her saying that she's always been interested in me. At first considering me kind and cute, like a puppy that she was taking care of, but over time, she started to look at me as a man. She'd been feeling this attraction as we spent time together and now wanted to go deeper into this. I've always seen her as a mentor and a friend, nothing more. I owe her so much. She helped me get this job, taught me a lot, always gives me advice, and I'm very grateful to her. And because of all this, I'm afraid of any answer I could give to her. If I say no, I'm not sure if our relationship will become bitter. She could resent me, or things could become uncomfortable, and I'm not comfortable with cheating. I can't say yes, even after she told me she's already solved it and it wouldn't be a problem. She told me that she would give me time to think about it, and since then, she's been behaving as normal as always. But it just feels so different now. In the comments, LemonBear63 says, "Don't shit where you eat. It's going to end badly." Rude Dog 4 replies, "I second that. If you haven't already, brush up your resume and find a new job." Knifey Wifey says, "Email or text message her about it so you have physical evidence. Ask something like, 'Did you really mean what you said at lunch?' Once she reiterates that she would like a romantic relationship with you, politely decline, emphasizing that it would be unprofessional, and you want to maintain the excellent working relationship that you have worked hard to build with her. No matter what she says to convince you, stick to your initial answer. No thank you. I am not interested in anything but a professional relationship with you. If she tries to punish you in any way, use the emails and text messages to prove what is actually going on." And OP says, "I'll do this, just in case." Dangerous Warthog 603 says, "I also think you can add how a woman cheated on you in the past, and it destroyed you emotionally and mentally, and you would never be able to do this to someone else. If she asks questions, you just say that you don't want to relive the trauma by talking about it. It's just a ploy to help her understand that you really can't have a romantic relationship with her, on top of the mentor that she has become. Good luck. You're in a tough spot." Absolutely, OP. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and you shouldn't do it. And do not shit where you eat. She has power over you in this situation. She can choose to turn it on you at any point. If anything, you are always standing to lose. No matter what happens, if things go south, you're the one that's going to take the blame here. This is a high-risk, low-reward situation. There is no universe where you should be doing this. So no, do not sleep with her. Do not do it. And now, onto the update. Reading the comments has helped me a lot into understanding a lot of things. First of all, it was hard for me to even think about being sexually harassed by my boss. I couldn't comprehend that I was being a victim because I didn't feel like I was, but so many of you pointing it out made me realize I am. After thinking over it a lot that night, I decided to do what most people told me: start collecting evidence about the situation and her behavior to have something that I can use to protect myself. Over those first days, I had some texts with her, saying what she wanted, but something just felt off. I didn't feel comfortable. I owe so much to this woman that I couldn't just do this without giving her at least a chance to come clean about this. I asked her if we could talk, just the two of us. Just in case, I had my phone recording audio. I stayed in her office after work finished, as in her words, it would be the better place to have privacy. I told her that I thought about her offer. She was curious about my answer, but something felt weird. I decided to come completely clean with her. So I told her that, with all the respect she deserved, I was declining her offer. When she asked why and if I didn't consider her attractive, I told her that before all this situation, I could only see her as a mentor and a friend, that I admire, respect, and am very grateful to her, but I just couldn't. I told her that the fact she's a married woman, even if she says that shouldn't be a problem, makes me uncomfortable. That I respect her and myself a lot to be a part of an affair. That in other circumstances, if she wasn't married, I would be glad to accept her invitation. But for our sake, and the sake of our job's relationship, I must say no. At first, she seemed to be calm. She accepted my answer and promised me that there would not be any problems between us, but she slowly started to break down until she was crying a lot. She seemed so hurt, so heartbroken. I didn't know what to do except for hugging her tight and trying to calm her. After she calmed down a bit, she told me everything. Some weeks ago, she found out that her husband was cheating on her. It was the 4th time. She told me about their marriage, that for both of them, separation or divorce was not an option, that they love each other, and the idea of being apart is too much for them. They tried it after the 2nd time he cheated, and they both felt miserable. So she ends up forgiving him, giving him another chance, and they live happily again until he cheats again. She told me that over the years, he has been the best husband that she could ask for. But after the last time, she was so tired of all this. She was about to end things with him, but they talked and decided to give a last chance to their marriage. That is when her husband convinced her to have her own affair. In order to save their marriage, they wanted to open it, and that's why she proposed it. It was like a way to make things fair between them. She explained to me that she decided to ask me as I was the only one that she could trust enough to ask for something like that. And she hoped that after all that we have done together, I could at least think about it without creating a problem or telling anyone. But after I told her that I wanted to talk, she started to have a lot of doubts and regretted asking me, because she believed I was about to say yes. And after I said no, she was so relieved and immediately felt heartbroken. She said she loved her husband, and after all, she couldn't do this to him. She felt so guilty for accepting this idea, for accepting all of the ideas that would follow after doing it, and the thing that hurt her the most is that she realized she wasn't able to do this to him, but he had done it more than once to her. I consoled her for hours. When we were done talking and left to go home, it was almost midnight. She thanked me for everything, for consoling her, for the trust, for being a gentleman, and promised that everything will be fine, and said she was happy that I ended up being a loyal and good friend. After that, the weekend was very quiet, and today she seemed to be way better. She told me everything's okay, they're talking, and I don't have anything to worry about. J. Bush says, "What an oddly positive turn of events, all things considered." And OP says, "Yes, but I still feel bad for her. She had been carrying a lot. Or Sombre says, yes, it's sad. She's fortunate that you are a good person and friend, OP. And Strange Rizlia says, she needs therapy, plus now look at you. You're basically the good guy. I love how life sometimes can be fair. You decided to not do it, and hearing her say that she wanted you to decline and now thinks more highly of you is incredible. I don't know why, but I'm happy for you. I wish you good luck and a happy life. Stay strong. Valkyrie8118 says, I was ready to be full-on outraged. I still think she should never have put him in that position, that it was a terrible thing to do to a good guy, but I do really feel for her too. Mountain Drum says, I think she realized it as well, especially with how he handled it. I think that's why she ended up opening up to him about everything. She realized her husband's wandering dick and numbskull ideas were going to screw up more than just the marriage. Quote, she told me that over the years, he has been the best husband she could ever ask for. I seriously doubt that. If he had been the best husband, he wouldn't have cheated. And the fact that she doesn't want to cheat on him and her reaction just says it all. Him being the best husband was probably his guilt. It's a classic trope for cheaters to buy their wife an expensive piece of jewelry every time they take a new mistress. Guilt gifts. He was probably extra sweet and thoughtful to his wife to make up for the fact that he knew he was betraying her. The age-old adage, it never goes wrong. He's actually the best boyfriend ever, except we haven't had sex in 2 years. Actually, she's the best girlfriend ever, but I still haven't met her parents yet, and she seems scared of me meeting her parents. It's like when you go from a completely normal situation previous to this, to then having that normality completely stripped away from you in a blink of an eye, and then this new normal normalized. Like, you can't just say they were the best partner, they still are the best partner except for this one thing. You are lying to yourself. Unless this new normal was communicated and you both were happy about this, and it's something you can work through, if they pulled the rug out from underneath you and then refuse to talk about it, refuse to find solutions, know that you are unhappy. I refuse to accept people saying they were the best partner ever, they are the best partner ever, except for this one thing. Because when these people open their mouth and reveal more details about the situation, there are so many cracks underneath. Like, they are not the best partner. That one thing encompasses a myriad of other things. And for this story, I'm so glad that OP did not go through with it, was there to console her, and did not get involved in that mess. That is such a messy relationship, and he could easily be scapegoated as the problem if he were to go through with it. Do not shit where you eat. I repeat, do not shit where you eat. Anyway, thank you, OP. Lovely story. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you for that. Slight chance my pregnant wife had an affair. Should I ask for a paternity test or wait? So my wife, 38 female, and I, 39 male, have been together for 12 years. I don't know how to describe it other than calling it the perfect relationship. I think in 12 years, we've only ever gotten to the point of really raising our voices at one another maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together, but always have never had issues allowing each other to lead our own lives and follow our own interests. We bought a house where we wanted, we both have good high-paying jobs that have great work-life balance. Basically, it's been everything short of perfect. We've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant, and it hadn't been happening. We were just about to start the fertility stuff when I came home from a work trip, and guess what? She's pregnant. I had this instant thought of, wait, I thought we didn't try the week last month because of fertility testing, but I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy at it. So I just assumed I misremembered. Now, I travel around the country pretty regularly for work. Other than COVID, I've been on the road as much as 40 weeks a year sometimes. Since COVID, it's been less, but still more than a week a month. Over the last 4 to 5 years, my wife has gotten very friendly with a guy that she works with. Let's call him Matt. Matt is slightly younger, I think 34 male or so. I know him, he's married, I know his wife. They've worked together for I think 7 years or so. He's always been around. Him and I have been friendly. Have I ever thought something was happening? No, but I always thought you'd be a fool to not think there's even a 1% chance your spouse would go outside the relationship. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always seen it as a safeguard to not take my wife or any other partner in the past for granted. She's never given me a reason to think that she'd do that, but anything is possible. So, about a month ago, I'm out of state for work and she's at home. I ask her what she's doing earlier in the day, and she says that Matt is coming by for dinner. Not out of the ordinary, Matt comes by from time to time. Sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, sometimes when I'm not there. I don't think much of it. We have a security system which includes cameras both inside and outside of the house, which we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record and are live accessible by both her and I. I often use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case of an alarm going off. So I turn on the camera and I see my 4 months pregnant wife lying on the floor on her side, with Matt sitting, straddling her legs, and using a foam roller to massage her hips. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? I start rewinding through the footage and they're eating and talking normally, but then they get on the couch and get under the same blanket. Now they're feet to feet, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move to the floor, and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her. I'm still watching the cameras, and they both look like deer in the headlights, and he very quickly leaves. We get into an argument, and she isn't mad at me accusing her, but she's adamant that nothing has or would ever happen, and that what I saw was innocent, and she was complaining about being in pain from the pregnancy. Which I know is true. She's already having some issues with back pain, etc. But the biggest point of that discussion was when I asked, if I were there, would you two have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me? And she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her that I didn't want to talk to her after that, and that we'd talk again when I got home 3 days later. That's when it hit me. What if my weird gut moment feeling about her telling me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened and this is not my child we are having? It's eating away at me while I'm at a hotel alone 1,000 miles away for 3 days. I reconcile with myself that I think it's less likely than more likely that something between them has happened. But basically, my 1% just jumped to 10%, 20% maybe? I get home and she's on eggshells and doesn't mention it. I kinda wait to see what she's going to do. 2 days later, she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swears nothing has happened and that she would never. Doesn't do anything over the top to try and prove anything, which I took as a good sign. But anyway, we talk out the issue and everything to a point of at least moving forward for now. I'm still coping and dealing with it, figuring out how to retrust after all this time. I'm getting more and more understanding of the fact that they are friends, and they've been friends for so long. Maybe he has intentions, but I don't see her having any, and I've never really picked up on it, and I've spent time around both of them together many times, and never caught on to anything. So the thing that is destroying me right now is, if I'm wrong and something did happen, while I can figure out how to deal with that, what if that child isn't mine? In the arguments and a few long conversations we've had about the situation since, I've never brought that up, and she's not mentioned it. Mostly because I don't want to make the situation worse and crush her if in fact she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think to do at this point is to wait until the baby is born and immediately order a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Or should I just tell her and have it dealt with now? If you're a woman in her shoes and you're telling the truth, would that destroy you or your view of me? If you're lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask a super vague question, but what do I do? Further down there is an edit/update. So many comments. Thank you everyone, more than I can address directly, but I'm going to keep reading a few things. 1. Stop DMing me about this. Thanks. 2. Some have made some good points about addressing it now rather than later, and that's something I'm considering more than I was before. Thank you. 3. To those focused only on my relationship, I get it, but that's not what I'm focused on. We've been talking about it a lot. My wife and I are pretty open people with each other, and I'm not saying that I'm convinced nothing happened, but I'm more focused on paternity right now. 4. If I need to track, spy on, Life 360 my wife, then this relationship is over already. That's not the relationship we have, and not one that I ever want, and in my opinion, not one anyone should ever have. We are working on rebuilding trust. As I said in this long-winded post, my default of 1% possibility went up to 10% or so. Trust me, I'm taking my relationship seriously. But to those I've said this to already, if the kid isn't mine, then there is no longer any conversation to have. 5. I've already had this discussion with my lawyer. I don't live in a state where the birth certificate stuff will be an issue. If I have paperwork that this child isn't mine, then divorce isn't going to be much of an issue. Both of us are in an independent financial situation where it won't matter much regardless. I'll keep up with this post as long as I can and post an update when and if anything gets resolved. I mean, me personally, I don't have too much to add to this situation besides tackling it now seems to be the right time to do it. It really sucks to be in this position, but I think it's fair, given that you've seen him straddling her leg like that and massaging her intimately. Let's just call a spade a spade. That was intimate. That was unacceptable. That's not something you do with someone else besides your partner. That crosses major lines. The deer in the headlights reaction cements it to me. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing was wrong. That is cheating. Emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, whatever, that's cheating. I think now that you've discussed it with her so much, you've had so many conversations with her, she has done something that has crossed those boundaries. I think it's fair for you to now approach her with the question of, is the child mine? She has already damaged the relationship to a point where it may not be reconcilable anymore. I think it's fair that you get an answer to every question you have. And now, on to the updates. So she was out of state on a business trip until late last night. It's Friday, so she worked from home in our kitchen. So I asked to talk and brought it up and asked for a test. She immediately said yes, and there is zero doubt, and nothing that she'd even have a second to worry about. But she has no problem doing it now. The only caveat I left it with is, if it's invasive at all per our doctors, then I'm okay waiting until it's low risk. I'm not a doctor, no clue what they'd have to do it now. So I'm not sure when we are, but she's aware and we are getting one. It was a decent and longer conversation. We're currently sitting together getting lunch. She's got no clue that I did this on Reddit, hence the new account because she is on here somewhere. Thank you everyone for your help and opinions. A bunch of you made me realize that we are already really open about everything, and if nothing happened, then she wouldn't worry about getting one. I was more worried about her health and adding some insane level of stress if it was an issue, as she's an at-risk pregnancy and it took so long for us to get pregnant. So again, thank you all for the help. I suppose I can update if it's mine or not, but I'm not sure how long that'll be. I'm 90 to 95% sure it's mine, but this will help us continue this conversation. Thank you. Updates. Just because it seems to be more of a topic on this post than the other one for some reason. Yes, I have the footage. No, I haven't talked to Matt yet. He's told her that he wants to talk about it, but I've told them to wait on that. My relationship with my wife and the paternity is what's important right now. I will eventually talk with Matt. No, I'm not going to get Matt's wife involved intentionally. I don't know why I would, other than to just be vindictive. I'm not going to cover for him, obviously, but his relationship is his, and mine is mine. I'm not interested in making this worse. Whatever is going on between him and his wife isn't any of my business. OP, when asked why his wife thought that she could be intimate with someone else, says, "We've talked about it at length and nothing is being ignored. I could write you an essay about our past, her reasons, and my feelings on it, but instead I'll just say, I'm aware of it." She's claiming innocence of anything further, but at the same time admitting that it wasn't a good look, but she wasn't thinking about it at the time. And that's what we are currently working through. When told that it doesn't look innocent, and asked if his wife goes to Matt's house when his wife isn't home, says, "She's 4 months. I was home, and we had been on the clock." To the point of the days blending together, trust me, we are pretty open people and pretty comfortable with ourselves and with each other. I don't know if she's been to his house without his wife. I mean, the 3 and 4 of us all hang out probably once or twice a month, but they work directly together every day and have for years. So obviously there's a closeness there. They are both upper management in their company, and at my company, I have long-term friends that are women. I've traveled with them, we've done dinner, and hung out in hotel rooms together. But I've never done anything because that's not me. I'm married and I love my wife and my life. I have no reason to. So, I mean, the optics are bad. I just have to decide if it's only the optics, or if she has a reason to. Maybe he has a reason to, and that's what I saw. That I'm not sure about, but that comes down to, do I trust her to handle that? She says if that's the case, then she's never noticed it. And she hangs out with him and his wife just about as much as he hangs out with us. She works in a building right near them. My company is based out of Chicago, and I live in one of the coasts. So my co-worker friends are much more spread out. We can't go to the bar to grab after-work drinks any day like they can. Honestly, I usually go to their work hangouts more than mine because of that. I'm friendly with her CEO because of it. So, is it perfect? No, but I've always trusted her. I've never had a reason not to. In 15 years, this is the first crack or dent in it. OP gives a clearer description of what happened that day. "That's not what I saw. She said something, he froze. Said something I couldn't hear. She said, no, don't worry about it. He put something in the dishwasher, and she walked him out to the front door. He didn't dive out of the window." You have to remember this is Reddit. I'm not putting every single nuanced detail in this, because that would take me hours to write, and I'm not putting my security footage on the internet for strangers to see. The reason I have the security system in the first place is because of a stranger on the internet. I'm not saying anything beyond that didn't happen for sure between them. I'm saying I don't know, and I don't have any proof. That's what my wife and I are discussing just about every day, and what we are working through. The original point of the post was, the only thing we hadn't talked about was paternity, because I don't want to put her in a situation where she medically loses the child, mine or not. Not only have I not been able to put in every single nuanced thing in this, I've also sprinkled in false details about our lives. Nothing pertinent to what happened, but other mundane details. I was a very small public figure at one point, and some lowlife from the internet traveled across the country to make death threats against us because of something warped in his head, to the point where the federal government had to get involved. People in here are wildly jumping at conclusions with much less information than I have, and ignoring the original point of the post and the original questions asked. Someone asks, has he told Matt's wife? OP says, she is my wife's friend's wife. We don't meet up and knit together. I know her through my wife. I see her maybe once every few months at a bar after work, or if they come by for dinner or to hang out. We aren't besties. Again, what should I go tell her? Hey, your husband was at my house. I knew he was there and I saw him run a foam roller over the outside of my wife's hip while he was sitting on her feet. It's super obvious that they are screwing, and even though I'm not sure, it's possible that she's carrying his baby. This isn't a soap opera. There's nothing I know that I can tell her, so why would she take my word on what tiny evidence there is? And why or how in the world would that help my situation? If all of this is false, now I've destroyed my relationship for acting like a child, trying to drum up drama for what obviously looks like being vindictive, and I put them in the same situation that we are in now, for something that I don't know is true yet. I believe you have entirely lost the plot here. Update 2. Here's where we're at. Yes, my wife is still very much pregnant. She's in the hard to pick things up off the floor stage. She's due in 8 weeks. Holy shit, 6 weeks actually. Just looked at the calendar. We're getting weekly ultrasounds at this point. He's already about 5 pounds and has a big ol' head. Her and I had some very long, direct conversations about everything. She is adamant that nothing has ever happened and nothing ever would. For a while, she was pretty upset with herself for causing this and causing my feelings of doubt. I've done my best to remedy that, as I've got to keep stress off her as much as possible right now. But it will for sure be revisited after the birth. As I've been saying the entire time, I'm really only worried about the child and the birth going well. Well, mostly, maybe not only. The only thing we really still disagree on is I thought he was getting too close because he had developed feelings or was getting attention that he wasn't getting elsewhere, maybe, etc. She doesn't see it that way, but has also said that it's possible, but if so, then she was blind to it. I told her that I wanted a paternity test, and she immediately agreed to it and said no problem at all. My only stipulation was that it couldn't be medically risky or stress-inducing at all, as she's a high-risk pregnancy. We both spoke to our doctors about it, and they basically told us that our only option was to go to the courthouse because they wouldn't do one without the law involved, which we both thought was ridiculous. Her doctor was a bit thrown off by it, so I didn't press very hard. It was honestly her pretty much demanding it. I knew that there were other options. I looked into those other options and ultimately decided to wait until the birth, and I have a lab already set up to do it, ready to go. I'm 95% sure it's unnecessary, but I'm still getting one for my peace of mind, and mostly so that nothing will come between me and my child. For those of you that have left me messages of support that I didn't get back to, thank you. I'm going to spend some time going through them tonight before I run off again. For those of you who've left messages that think I should be acting like a 17-year-old high school student and either getting violent, purposely cheating on my wife to prove a point, or other childish trash, thanks for the entertainment at least. Stop watching TLC and TikTok. That dumbass drama ain't the way, kiddos. And to the one person who suggested that I cause an accident with my wife, I hope you end up behind bars someday. It's really likely that I'm not going to come back here after tonight until after I get the results from the lab. So if you're really still interested in the results, come back in 1.5 to 2 months. I've been told the results take about 48 hours once submitted. I'll give you your Maury moment then. Opie answers some questions in a comment. Just as a preempt, I'm going to post something that I responded to someone else on the last post just a minute ago, but I likely won't check this account until after the birth after this. Comment 1. People seem to be reading into the reasons I thought all of this was more than what I said. I've seen, dude, they were in bed together, you caught them, or they were cuddling under a blanket. I totally get how the telephone game works, but I never said any of that. So I'll clarify, I guess. Here is exactly what I saw. They were on the sectional couch in my living room at either ends under the same large blanket, feet to feet. The massage. She was laying on the floor on her side, he was sitting by her feet and rolling one of those big foam rollers on her back and side, which is something I do all the time because she's been complaining about back and outer hip pain. Still enough for me to raise a concern with her, but people seem to be reading into that as they were basically dry humping and thought you couldn't see. Comment number 2, I'm being told that I'm oblivious and ignoring the obvious, and letting her and him off the hook. This is a direct comment I left someone giving my thoughts on that. I think they said something like, this is what guys who choose to have their head in the sand say. In my response, yeah, I'm pretty well aware of that. I've also stated many times that my wife is a high risk at pregnancy, so I've decided to try and not explode things until I know something for a fact and risk what would potentially be the only opportunity I have to have a child at my age. If it turns out I'm wrong, and that happens because I blew all of this up over nothing, I don't know how I could live with myself, and my marriage likely wouldn't survive that anyway. So, I don't see that as a winning option. If I deal with it calmly and like an adult, and if I'm wrong, then great, we can move on. And if I'm right, then it can still be dealt with accordingly with facts and not speculation. If the child is mine and the birth goes well, then we have a healthy child and I can deal with the remainder of any damages she has or hasn't done without risking potentially the only child I'm going to have. Trust me, I'm not ignoring it. I'm choosing to support my wife to get through the pregnancy first, then I'll deal with the rest of it. It's probably been the hardest thing I've ever done emotionally, but here we are. End of copied comment. I know I'm a sarcastic son of a bitch in some of these comments, but honestly, thank you for everyone's concern. And I've gotten some good advice from people. Mostly, this has been a bit cathartic to write all this down, as most of my friends are toxic dudes who are more interested in fighting about golf or some other pointless shit. I love them, but I don't really have anyone other than her to talk to about any of this. So honestly, thank you. Update, 29th of September, 1 a.m. Baby boy is here, born on the 27th of September, 7 pounds and 10 ounces. He had what the doctors in the operating room said the biggest meconium they've seen in a while on the table, so it was likely he was about 8 pounds when he was born. Labor was induced early in the morning on the 26th. Labor was like 30 hours. Pushed for like 3 hours, no progress, ended up in a C-section. He's perfectly healthy and kind of a tank. I was almost a 10-pound baby. Mum is dealing with recovery and not having a fun time, but we are getting there. We're being discharged on Tuesday, they tell us. We live about 2 miles from the hospital, so I've been going back to the house to shower and sneak in like an hour or two nap a couple times. Otherwise, I've been here the entire time. As far as paternity, just out of. All that entails with the birth of a newborn in recovery and, honestly, a bit of embarrassment. We haven't started the test, but it's set up and ready to start on Tuesday when we get out of here. So I'll give a final update after the results come back. So maybe another week to 10 days. My honest opinion after looking at this kid? He is mine. Matt and I are physically very opposite. Different heritages. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds. He's probably 5'8", 175 to 180 pounds. I've always held the belief that babies all generically look the same, other than obvious ancestral differences. But yes, this moose of a baby has some obvious traits that would only come from me. Still doing the test, but I'm very much not worried about it. I'll make a new post when I get the results back. And now for the final update. The baby is as healthy as could be. Mum, on the other hand, has been having issues. Baby was born on the 27th of September, labor was 30 hours, ending in a C-section, 7 pounds 10 ounces. Mum didn't do so well. We were supposed to be in for 4 days, but ended up being 8 days. Mum has been back to the hospital twice since. I'm currently sitting in the car with the little guy because Mum's in the emergency room right now. She's making progress, but still having a hard time with a few things. As I mentioned before, she has some pre-existing issues that we knew would make this hard. There have been a few hurdles, but we are getting over them together. As far as paternity, the results came back this morning. Greater than 99.9999 match that I am the father. I did pretty much already know this, but now there is no question and I can put it behind me. My wife and I have had long conversations about all of this leading up to the birth, especially around the time of the original post when all of this started. We're in a good place, and while it's not always going to be there, we both have things to work on communication-wise that came from all of this. I also did see Matt today. That's been settled. I'm pretty satisfied that what I saw was it, and there wasn't anything else beyond that, and that it was a friend helping her with the pain the same way I do. I do want to thank everyone who left a message or DM'd me. Good or bad comments, thank you. Talking to the void and all you strangers helped me wait this out. I appreciate it. I'm going to enjoy my son's company now. Thank you again. J7488 says, congratulations. This may have gotten buried in the comments, but did your wife have a real understanding of the optics of what you saw? She realized how truly suspicious it looked? And OP says, yeah, she realized it after she saw the video herself. Believable Toadstool says, also, why are you still not informing Matt's wife of what you walked in on? Feels dishonest. She deserves to know and make her own decision. And OP says, I didn't walk in on anything. His wife apparently was aware the entire time because Matt told her what was going on. Well, that sounds like they communicated this issue well then. Regardless of my feelings of whether it was an emotional and physical betrayal, that is all very much irrelevant. I do hope that there were no huge blow-ups or arguments between Matt and his wife. I'm very much glad that this was an honest misunderstanding, and I wish OP and his wife all the best going forward in the future after all of this. Thank you for sharing your story with us. As always, I very much appreciate that, and I'd love to know what you guys have to think of this one below in the comments. Let me know. Am I the asshole here for ghosting my ex because she's married now? My friends think I'm an asshole for blocking my ex, who is married, because she keeps calling and messaging me. I wanted to ask if what I'm doing is right, or if I should keep in touch with her. I dated Lisa for 4 years, and we broke up 2 years ago. Lisa told me that she didn't see a future with me and wanted to call things off. There were many reasons, and I knew it was coming. Lisa came from a wealthy family, and we met in college. Our relationship was great during the college years. However, after we graduated and got jobs, it became clear to her that I would never be able to provide the lifestyle that she was used to. She hated the small apartment we rented because I wanted to pay off my student loan quickly, and she resented that I couldn't afford to take her on nice vacations. It sucked, but I couldn't blame her. I loved Lisa deeply, but I also knew that she deserved the life she wanted. After we broke up, we still had lingering feelings and stayed friends for a few months. We had mutual friends and would meet up regularly. I never hated Lisa. In fact, I cherished the memories of the 4 years we were together, but I was also acutely aware that we came from different worlds and that she shouldn't have to settle because of me. Still, it was hard to let go completely, and sometimes I wondered if I'd ever truly get over her. We drifted apart after Lisa started dating a family friend. I met him a few times at parties. He knew Lisa and I had dated, and though he was polite, I started avoiding her and focused on work. Eventually, I moved to another city and lost touch with Lisa. I heard from mutual friends that she got married 6 months ago. I wasn't invited to the wedding, but I was happy for her. I also dated someone briefly last year, but right now, my career is my main focus. That's what I need to believe. 3 weeks ago, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Lisa. She started with small talk, and we caught up on each other's lives. She told me about the new house she and her husband had just bought and how busy she'd been. I told her about my work and my new life. It was nice, like catching up with an old friend. She gave me her new number, and the call lasted about 20 minutes. Although I found it odd, I figured she might have thought about me and decided to reach out. The next day, she messaged me and sent a few photos of her new house. I complimented her on them. 2 days later, she called me again, saying she was driving and thought about chatting. We talked about my new city, my new friends, and even gossiped about our old mutual friends. And then, she started sending me photos from a recent party where they all met up. Over the next 2 weeks, Lisa began calling me almost every day. I ignored most of her calls, but she always said that she had free time and wanted to talk. She started sending me TikToks, memes, and messages, initiating conversations all the time. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she was just being friendly. But it felt wrong. Lisa is married, and I shouldn't be talking to her so frequently. The more she reached out, the more unsettled I became. Was she unhappy in her marriage? Was she just lonely? Or was I reading into it too much? Last Friday, I finally messaged her, saying that it felt inappropriate for us to talk so often, given that she's married now. She replied almost immediately, saying there is nothing wrong with us being good friends like before. I didn't want to continue, so I told her that we needed to stop talking for a while because I needed to focus on work. After that, I blocked her number. She called our mutual friend Jess, crying about how I was rude and blocked her. Jess told our other friends, and some of them called me, saying that I was being unreasonable to treat Lisa that way and cut her off. I don't understand how no one sees that it's wrong for Lisa to call her ex when she's happily married after more than a year of no contact. It doesn't make sense, but maybe I'm the one who's missing something. Am I being unreasonable with Lisa, or was it right for me to block her for both our sakes? And if I'm right, why do I still feel so conflicted? I really don't think that you're being unreasonable here, because there does appear to be a double standard. If this was a generic ex-boyfriend messaging his ex-girlfriend and doing all of this, you'd say, Jesus Christ, he's being a creep. He hasn't gotten over the relationship. He still sees something there. Does his partner know about all of this? Does she know that he's being unreasonably forward with you and being way too friendly? Your friends obviously don't want to rock the boat, and it's easier to put the blame on you here because, I don't know, you as a man, I guess, can't have creepy advances from an ex that you're not comfortable with? I get why you're feeling conflicted about this one, but please don't. You're not in the wrong. I genuinely do feel like you're being gaslit by your friends who are telling you that what you were doing was wrong, that in fact you are unreasonable to cut her off. Because I'm just so sure they'd feel the same way about their partners messaging an ex of theirs and hiding it from them. They'd be really cool with that, I'd imagine. Charlie Loves Tuna says, not the asshole. Simple question and test. Ask her, well, since there's nothing wrong with us being good friends, does her husband know, and can she add him to the text group? I'm pretty sure we both know the answer. Zornoff says, not the asshole. She wants you as her side piece. Don't play her game, let her live her boring life with her boring husband. Solo Throwaway says, yup, she still loves OP. Married the family friend because he had money but doesn't love him. She wants them both. The love, OP, and the lifestyle, her hubby. Big Bob C says, you didn't ghost her. You told her exactly why you were blocking her. I would send her the following. It bothers me that you were choosing to get back in touch with me after you were married and sharing all of the wonderful things that you have in your life that I couldn't provide you soon enough. I don't think it is intentional on your part, and I do not feel inadequate, but the message I'm getting from you is that you think I was. I wasn't good enough to be your partner in life. You have found a man who is. You should be directing your emotional energy towards him, not to an old friend you were not close enough to invite to your wedding. Rocketman69 says, she is bored with the lifestyle that you couldn't provide. She's missing what you had, and it will turn into an affair. Maybe her husband is gay and is hiding in the marriage so that he doesn't lose his inheritance. No matter the reason, not the asshole. And now, on to the update. I had posted a month and a half ago regarding going no contact with my ex-girlfriend Lisa after she tried to rekindle our friendship. Lisa married her husband Jason 6 months ago, and I wanted to respect their marriage and blocked her after I felt that we were crossing a line. My friend was very critical of me because I was ignoring her, and most of you agreed that I did the right thing. Things have been really crazy since then, and many of you asked for an update. I wanted to respect Lisa's privacy, but as things settled down, I'm again not sure if I'm doing the right thing and need advice on my situation. Sorry for the long post, but too many things have happened and I wanted to get this off my chest. After I blocked Lisa, she called my friend Jess and wanted to talk to me one last time. I initially declined, but finally caved in and told her that it would be the last time that we would talk. Lisa called me on Saturday morning and told me that she wanted to talk to me because she needed help and does not know if she can trust anyone. She sounded awful, and I had to calm her down before she told me what was going on. Lisa told me that after we broke up, she met her husband Jason within a few months. Jason asked her out on a date in front of her mum, and her mum insisted that she at least give Jason a chance. Jason was a charmer, and they quickly became official. Jason was everything I was not. He came from a wealthy family and had everything figured out. He took her on all the vacations I could never afford, and Lisa loved this life where she does not have to worry about things like loans or money when she was with me. They had a grand wedding, but Lisa told me that things quickly started going south. One night, she was hanging out with Jason's friends, and one of his college friends started flirting with her and touched her inappropriately. Lisa was shocked and told Jason immediately. Jason was drunk and told Lisa to loosen up and enjoy the party and didn't confront the friend. As months went by, Lisa found proof that Jason and his friends were doing drugs, and Jason had slept with most of his friends' wives, and it was a common thing in their friend group. She suspected that it happened during the time they were dating and also a few times after they were married. She confronted Jason, but he just got mad at her and told her that she's being too uptight. Things got messy, and Lisa told me that there were some instances of physical abuse, though she didn't go into too many details. Lisa wanted to leave Jason and told her mum about it. However, her mum told her that it's too early in their marriage, and instead, Lisa should work harder to make Jason happy so that he doesn't need to look at other women. Lisa never told any of our mutual friends about this because they all loved Jason, mostly because he paid for all the parties, restaurants, etc., and Lisa just felt very lonely and helpless. That's when she got a burner phone and started messaging me on it. She apologized to me for getting me involved in her mess, but asked me if I can buy her a ticket to my city so that she can get as far away from Jason and everyone and figure out what to do next. She could not buy the tickets because Jason had access to all of her cards and accounts, and she couldn't trust any of her friends back home because Jason might know about it. I was really angry with the whole situation and agreed to help her. I got the tickets immediately and did not email her any details. I only told her the confirmation numbers when packed and reached the airport. She flew to my city and is staying in my guest room. As expected, all hell broke loose as soon as she called her parents to tell them that she has left Jason and is with me. She told them and our friends why she did what she did. However, everyone just thought that we had an affair and that she left Jason for me. Jason was really angry and demanded for her to come home or they were done. His parents called her to plead for her to come back and talk about things calmly. Her dad refused to talk to me while her mum flew to my city and we all met, and she told her what happened. Her mum was more worried about their reputation than what Lisa went through in the last few months. It was just sickening. Lisa is looking for lawyers to file for a divorce and has refused to talk to Jason since she came here. Jason has not made any attempt to visit her and initially sent a lot of threatening messages. I feel as though he was advised not to send any more incriminating messages to her, and the messages from him suddenly stopped and there is radio silence. Lisa is currently living with me for the last month. She has offered to pay me rent, but I've told her to just save up for any legal fees, as it seems that her parents might cut her off. Many of our mutual friends still refuse to believe what Jason did, and some feel that we were having an affair. Many of them have completely stopped talking to Lisa and I, and even removed us from their socials. Lisa looks like an empty shell of herself. She was the most kind, fun person when we were together. Even though she keeps a brave face, she just bursts into tears randomly. I feel as though she has still not told me the whole story about what Jason did to her, but I'm just going to be a good friend and give her the space that she needs. I, honestly, am not too sure how to feel. Everything happened so suddenly. I never had time to react and think if what I am doing is right. I don't know how I got into a situation where my married ex is now living with me. I cannot kick her out, and I want to be there to support her in such a horrible time. However, a part of me also does not know if what I'm doing is right, and as she is still a married woman, I don't want to be labeled as a homewrecker or a cheater. Any advice would be appreciated. Edit. Just wanted to add some context since many of you are asking about it in the comments. Lisa left her main phone home when she left since her husband can track her phone. He was already paranoid that Lisa would leave him and was tracking all of her accounts and Lisa's whereabouts. She didn't want to let anyone know that she was at my place. However, I insisted that she at least call and tell her parents that she was safe. Else they would have thought that she disappeared and might have gone to the cops to file a missing persons report. Jess did not help her because Lisa did not tell Jess or any of our friends about the abuse. All Lisa told me was that she did not trust any of our friends right now. I'm still not sure why and what happened there. However, most of our friends have sided with Jason, and he is spreading a false narrative that Lisa married him for money and waited for 6 months exactly so that she is eligible for a significant alimony based on their prenup. Everyone suspects that we, Lisa and I, planned this whole charade for Jason's money. Lisa left and came back to me because she wanted to put as much physical distance between Jason and her before she told him that she was leaving him. And of course, Lisa and I are not getting back together. I understand the vulnerable position she's in, and I just want to make sure she is safe. And finally, what are my future plans? I'm taking this one day at a time. I luckily have a very well-paying job now and do not have to worry financially about supporting her for a short time. However, I do understand that Lisa cannot live with me forever, and we need to figure something out as soon as things settle down. In the comments, whoa, what a wild ride. Although it seems like you made the right decision in blocking her at first. I'm happy you were able to intervene and support her during her difficult time. It's terrible when people put their reputation before the welfare of others. I'm sending Lisa my best wishes and hoping that everything turns out well for her in the end. And OP says, it is just crazy to see Lisa go through so much in the last few months, and no one is standing in her corner. I also hope she finds strength. Another commenter says, okay, she should not be living with you. You are not her savior. Maybe what she's telling you is true, and maybe it's exaggerated to gain your sympathy. She needs to end her marital relationship and deal with her baggage from that before jumping back in with you. All of the reasons she threw you out for her husband still exist. She is still married, period. She can go live with her parents. If he has money and she doesn't, it could be a long, messy divorce. Step back and let her deal with her crap. Captain Delicious Pants says, I get that she needed help, but if Lisa knew people to call and pressure OP to talk to her, why didn't she ask one of them to help? Vespertine replies, maybe her husband also slept with or was inappropriate with those friends. Seems like that group normalized a lot of weird behavior. Very unfortunate situation all around. I don't know what I'd do in OP's situation. I feel like I would be in the same boat as him, but yeah, gotta get her out of there eventually. I feel like that's logical as well. Like, you help her get on her feet, you help her come back to a new normal, and then eventually she does have to leave that place, preferably sooner than later because, you know, she can't just ignore all of her problems forever. She has got to deal with this one and not just sit on her laurels all the time. It's great that you are there to help her out, and you have done so much, OP, and I hope the next update that comes in the future is a very good resolution to this problem. Because right now it looks very grim. It looks like she's getting cut off by everyone as a result of this. Please don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, but I also do understand if you allow her to stay for longer to get her on her feet. That's an admirable thing to do. But what do you guys think of this one? I'd love to know down in the comments, and thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. Our next post is by user AccomplissedRuin85, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for not wanting to wear makeup or dresses, even though my boyfriend thinks my style is weird? I, 19 female, have been with my boyfriend, 18 male, for 2 years. I've always been more of a tomboy. I wear jeans and hoodies, have a really short pixie cut, and never wear makeup. Honestly, I've always questioned my gender identity, and I feel more comfortable with a more androgynous style. I've never really felt like I fit into traditional girly expectations, and that's why I don't wear makeup or dresses. My boyfriend has always known this about me, and it's never been a problem until recently. Lately though, he's been acting distant and has made comments about how my style is weird. He's mentioned that I don't act or dress like most girls, and hinted that I should try to look more feminine. He said things like, most guys like girls who wear makeup and dress up. You don't have to be like a guy all the time. He wasn't being mean, but it felt like he was disappointed in how I present myself. I explained to him that I've always questioned my gender, and that dressing and acting more feminine makes me uncomfortable, but he seemed a little frustrated. Now he's been distant and cold, and I can tell he's not happy. I feel guilty for not wanting to change for him, but I also don't think that I should have to conform to gender norms just to make him feel better. So am I the asshole? The Hound Abides says, not the asshole, but your relationship is effed. He wants someone that you don't want to be, which isn't inherently wrong, but the fact that he expects you to change after he knows who you are is messed up. It's best if this ends and you can both find someone better suited to your desired lifestyle. Ecstatic Stay says, not the asshole, and you don't have to change for anyone other than yourself. Wearing clothes that make you feel more comfortable and aren't feminine has nothing to do with gender. You can question your gender and try to discover more about yourself, but liking and using dresses or makeup doesn't make you more or less a woman. I don't wear makeup. I also don't like dresses, skirts, or heels, and when I was a teenager, several people in my family and even neighbors said I was a lesbian just because I was a bit of a tomboy. I never questioned my gender or became a lesbian. I'm just a straight woman who prefers to wear comfortable clothes. Imaginary Chair says, he was attracted to you as you are when you met 2 years ago. You didn't suddenly change, so what changed about him that it's become a problem? Has he been spending more time online, absorbing toxic opinions about women and gender? Has he been looking at other women and comparing you? Does he want an obedient trad wife? Is it the Andrew Tate influence? Whatever it is, I don't think you have a future together. I think you guys are getting into adulthood now. You're 18 and 19. A lot of things change between 16 and 18. His personal preferences may have changed. There may be influences coming in from his friends that he is taking personally and now taking out on you. But at the end of the day, it's wrong for him to force these expectations on you and to shame you and make you feel bad for that, and then use manipulative tactics of avoiding you and withholding intimacy from you, just not wanting to talk. Those are very much childish and petty things to do to someone that you are supposed to love. I don't think you're the asshole for not wanting to wear makeup and dresses. Your style is weird, there's nothing wrong with that. You are aware of it and you like your style, you're comfortable with it. He's more than welcome to talk about these things with you and reaffirm why you don't want to dress like that. But he crosses boundaries and he crosses lines when he starts making you feel bad for who you are. That to me firmly makes him an asshole. And now onto the update. First off, thank you to everyone who responded. I've been thinking a lot about your comments and advice, and it's helped me realize a few things. After reading through the responses, I decided to have a serious conversation with my boyfriend about everything. I sat him down and told him about how his comments were affecting me. I explained again that my style and the way that I present myself are tied to the fact that I've always questioned my gender identity. I told him how uncomfortable it makes me to feel like I'm being pressured to look or act in a way that doesn't feel authentic to who I am. I was hoping he'd understand and be more supportive. Unfortunately, the conversation didn't go the way I hoped. He admitted that he's been struggling with my gender expression and that he's more attracted to girly girls. He said he feels like he's dating a guy sometimes, which hurt to hear. I tried to explain that this is who I am, and I don't feel comfortable changing myself just to fit into his idea of what a girlfriend should look like. He said he doesn't want to break up, but also doesn't know if he can get used to the way I present myself. This conversation made me realize that maybe we're just not as compatible as I thought. I've been feeling conflicted, but I know I shouldn't have to change who I am or question my identity just to make someone else happy. I told him that I need some time to think about our relationship, and we're currently taking a break to figure things out. I still don't know what the future holds, but this experience has shown me that being true to myself is more important than trying to fit into someone else's expectations. Thank you again for all the advice. It really helped me see things more clearly. Le Half Hand Easy says, you're 19. You still have your whole life ahead of you. Go your separate ways. 3 Style says, take gender roles and identity out of it for a moment. He's pretty much doing the equivalent of telling someone who dresses like a goth that he kinda wishes you dress like a preppy girl. It just doesn't make sense. Either he likes your style and maybe asks you for, at most, 1 or 2 special compromises for maybe a few formal family weddings, or he's just not attracted to that type of style expression you have, and which feels most comfortable for you. Lunacy4 says, okay, I'm no expert, but I've come to realize a few things over my 51 years. You don't have to care about gender. Just because you're not a girly girl doesn't mean that you must be a boy, or vice versa. You are you. Be who you want to be. Be with people who are happy to be in your company, no matter how you present yourself. Yeah, you may have to conform for some work or jobs, but that's just a uniform, not the real you. Advice from a 51-year-old female who loves to wear blue jeans, combat boots, and flowered bright shirts. Has short hair and no makeup. Update 2. Hey everyone, I wanted to give another update, and thankfully this one is much more positive. After our first conversation, I took a few days to really think about things, and then my boyfriend and I had another heart-to-heart. This time, I approached him from a calmer place, and I think that helped both of us communicate better. I told him how much it hurt to feel like I wasn't enough for him just as I am, and that my style and the way I present myself are a reflection of my identity. I made it clear that changing myself to fit into traditional girly norms wasn't something that I was willing to do, and that I needed him to accept me for who I truly am. To my surprise, he opened up a lot more this time. He admitted that he had been ignorant about how deeply these things mattered to me, and that he was just struggling with societal expectations about what a girlfriend should look like. He realized that his comments were hurtful and unfair. He apologized sincerely and told me that he wants to learn to better understand and support me. Since then, things have been going much better between us. He's been asking me more about my feelings and experiences with gender, and he's making an effort to be more supportive and open-minded. He even started reading up on gender identity and self-expression, which really means a lot to me. We've also agreed to focus on the parts of our relationship that bring us closer, instead of worrying about what others might think or expect. I'm really glad that we had those tough conversations, because it helped us both grow. While I know this is an ongoing journey, I feel hopeful now. He's showing that he cares about me as a whole person, and I'm feeling more comfortable being my authentic self in our relationship. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It helped give me the confidence to stand up for myself, and things are looking up. In the comments, Lyndon Lil Blue Balls says, I want to stay positive and focus on the fact that they are both learning to communicate now. Sir Ed Kalot says, this exactly. This is why I try to avoid the very easy trap of telling people to just break up when they post problems, because sometimes communication works. Not always, perhaps not even often, but sometimes. And I don't think that it's our place as advice givers to assume that'll never happen. Shattenspringer says, to be fair, a lot of people ask about relationship advice, starting with, I discovered my fiancé, to be married in 3 hours, is a serial killer and sold our house to a hooker for $1,000 to have enough gambling money. So now we need to vacate, but all of his victims are buried in the cellar. Also, I think he might have cheated on me with a hooker. What should I do? Normal problems that are solved with talking are rarely ending up here. And I agree with that sentiment. I get that people are like, oh, Reddit is full of idiots, and everyone just says break up, break up, break up. How about you go touch grass and live in the real world for a second? But then, you have this shit that people always post here where they're like, my relationship is perfect, but my husband suddenly stopped having sex with me 2 years ago, and we have not really talked about it since. And that is an average story. That is an average experience of people on this, forum. Am I wrong for defaulting to, why haven't you been talking about this? If you have talked about it, why has nothing happened? Why are you coming here now? And are you just asking us for permission to break up with your partner? Regardless, I'm very happy that OP was able to sort this out with her boyfriend. Great example of healthy, transparent communication winning out at the end of the day. I'll be very honest. From the way that the story was going, it really didn't seem like he was going to make that turnaround in the third quarter. I genuinely did not expect that boyfriend to have a change of heart. To me, I read the situation as, he's 18, he's looking for a slow burn reason to end the relationship and move on from it because he doesn't want to be in the relationship with her anymore. But thank God that was not the case. Thank God they worked it out together. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. That was really nice. And what do you guys have to say about this one in the comments? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear. Am I the asshole for not making my fiancé a list of things to do for our daughter? I, 24 female, and my fiancé, 24 male, had a rather large disagreement this morning. While I was brushing my teeth and using my bathroom, my fiancé placed our daughter to watch her show in her high chair and then just proceeded to watch TikToks for the next approximately 10 to 15 minutes straight while my daughter waited. I finally came out and saw this and asked why he hadn't made any breakfast for her yet. And he proceeds to say, I was waiting to ask you what to make for her. Note, she is 1 and eats scrambled eggs on daycare days like today. I said that's a lie. You know what she eats by now. Anyway, this comment sparked a disagreement between us because I vented about his lack of assistance in helping to get her any of her belongings ready to go in the morning. His solution after getting frustrated with me was to tell me that I need to make him a list of what I would like him to do for her. And I refused, as I said I don't want to mother him as well, and as her parent, he should know what needs to be done. Diaper changes, outfit, teeth brushing, daycare bottles cleaned and filled up, etc. I tried explaining that as her mum, no one ever gives me a list. I simply look around or think about what needs to be done. So I guess my question is, am I the asshole for refusing to make the list? A commenter asks, is it possible he has ADHD? My brother does, and he genuinely needs a list from his wife to make sure he gets everything done. She makes a list, he completes it, and they are both happier and have fewer arguments now. Maybe OP's partner actually needs help focusing or figuring out what to do. And OP says, he does not have ADHD, but I do. Hence why it's hard for me to understand his lack of doing stuff sometimes, because I feel like my brain is always going 120 miles an hour. Someone else says, as a stay-at-home mother, I get it. I have felt this way. I learned everything the hard way, and everybody looks at me for an answer without trying, or worse, they think they know better and make things worse trying to force it. I have wanted to respond to my husband this way at times, but he decided against it because it just puts something else on my plate that I don't want. An argument, his negative feelings, my own negative feelings, the long, annoying conversation to recover and get past the negative feelings. I have things to do, and remember, you know your fiancé best, so you know what he's capable of or what his motivations are. For my husband, he's absent-minded, plus has a lot on his mind. I would just ask him or tell him what to do. If he's taking too long, I do it myself, and when I'm not upset, I tell him I don't appreciate what's going on and that it angers me. He's not being malicious or selfish, so I take the road that costs the least time and negativity for my own sake. Not the asshole. Long story short, is the arguing worth the time and effort? You also have to find a way through this without harboring resentment. I'm not trying to say he has no responsibilities, and he definitely needs to wake up. I'm saying you are going to burn out from this type of situation, and it will break down your relationship. OP says, I was also a stay-at-home mother for the first 10 months of her life. I'm now in nursing school, so we're trying to rebalance the scales since I now have more responsibilities than just the house and her. I just feel like this comment sums up my feelings perfectly. It's a hard feeling because you know it's not malicious, just frustrating. I just don't want that frustration to evolve into something bigger. Striped Badger says, ugh, weaponized incompetence. Be aware, I'm biased in my vote. That is a complete deal breaker for me. So I can't even imagine why you're engaged. Not the asshole. For my opinion on this one, I get that he has had 2 months of leeway to learn and figure out what needs to be done with his daughter while you guys transition to this new period. I'm not going to lay all the blame on him here and say that it's just weaponized incompetence, because I can definitely give him the benefit of the doubt that he has a demanding job, he's not home all the time, he's not able to see the routine that you have set up with this child and all the responsibilities and every individual action that is required to upkeep this child. That's fair enough, but for him to sit on TikTok for 10 to 15 minutes while this child needs to be fed, that is unacceptable. I think everyone can agree that that's unacceptable, and he doesn't need to be told what to do in order to look after his child. If he needs stepping stones for how to look after a child, he can use the internet that he was on in order to look up what people usually do. What's a normal morning routine for a 1-year-old child? What do you guys do? And I'll copy that, and I'll give my child the proper care that they need. But no. He's choosing to offload all responsibility onto OP, who needs to make a list for him. That's unacceptable. You've set that boundary with him, OP. You need to enforce that boundary, or else there will be consequences for this incompetence. And now, on to the updates. Hi everyone, thank you so much for all of your responses. I just wanted to let everyone know a few things. We have been engaged since before she was born, for everyone asking why I would be engaged to him if he acted like this. I would also like to clarify we do already see a couples counselor to help us navigate our other occasional but rare issues, mostly in-law relationship issues. She helped explain the mental load concept, and I have to say, ever since then, things have improved so much. Ever since, he has really flipped the switch and helped me out a ton, especially in the mornings. He really is a great guy with a big heart, but sometimes a bit aloof to certain things, hence why I even wanted to write this post so he could see that I wasn't alone in my perspective of his behaviors. Lastly, for those wondering if I'm the naggy/controlling woman, the answer is no, lol. I didn't care what he made or what he took off my list for the morning, whether it was diaper changes or picking her outfit instead of making her food, that would have been perfectly fine. I literally do not care as long as stuff gets done. Happy to say that we are doing much better now. Peter says, calling fiancé weaponized incompetence is the best description of him. Inevitableness says, I disagree. OP's statement about how much he has stepped up proves that it wasn't weaponized. It was just ignorance. Explaining that they were also going through a transition period with responsibilities, it appears that it was early on and he wasn't in the routine of being a co-parent yet. Not everyone is an intentional asshole. Sometimes we're an ignorant asshole. And yeah, you can be ignorant. It's okay to be ignorant. We all make mistakes. We all do things wrong. And that happens. That's life. But once you make those mistakes, it's up to you to educate yourself and do better in the future. So I hope from this point forward that things continue to go well, he continues to improve his cooperation with OP, and that the child doesn't get neglected by him. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. I very much appreciated it. What did you guys think of this one down in the comments below? Our next post is by user Swordcat, and it's titled, Am I the asshole here because I didn't invite my father to my wedding? Because years ago, he told me I was no longer a part of his family. I'm 28 female, and will be getting married next month. I didn't invite my father to the wedding, but now he's trying to get in touch. I think I need to explain the context, because it all started when I was 6 years old, when my parents got divorced after my dad cheated on my mum with my stepmother. After that, I spent most of my time with my mum, but during holidays and vacations, I stayed with my dad. When I was 8, my half-brother Jake, 20 male, was born, and whenever I was with my dad, I was forced to take care of him. When I started high school, I had to move in with my dad because my mum had to move abroad for work. This period was one of the hardest of my life. My stepmother wasn't a bad person. She tried to include me in things, but she was very submissive to my father. As for my dad, he always treated me like an extra in the house, someone who didn't really belong there. I was constantly responsible for taking care of Jake, and whenever he went out, he would only take my stepmother and Jake, never inviting me. One of the most painful experiences happened when I was 14. My dad announced that the whole family was going to Disney for vacation, but the day before the trip, he told me that he wanted it to be a family moment, as it was their first big trip with Jake. So I was left home alone. This had already become a pattern. Trips to the beach, zoos, or other outings always included just my stepmother and Jake, while I was left behind. My dad didn't like me going out with friends or inviting them over. He said teenagers together only cause trouble, and because he was controlling, he would call the house phone at random times to check if I was home. He also had a trusted neighbor who would keep an eye on me to make sure that I didn't have any visitors. When I turned 16, living with him, the feeling of being an extra only got worse. Everything I had experienced during vacations, the exclusion and sense of abandonment, became part of my daily life. Things came to a head when I turned 18. My dad got a promotion at work and decided to take a family trip to Europe. Since it was my last year of high school, I was excited, thinking I'd finally be included. But then he told me he didn't have enough money for a trip for 4, so it would just be to celebrate Jake's 10th birthday. I had to stay home. That is when I snapped. I told him that he was being unfair and that he shouldn't have given me false hope. I explained how I'd felt over the past years, and he called me ungrateful and spoiled, saying that I lived with him rent-free, which was a lie since my mum sent money to support me and I did all of the housework because both he and my stepmother worked late. The argument escalated and he kicked me out of the house, saying I was no longer a part of the family and not even his daughter. He literally threw me out and tossed my things onto the sidewalk. Luckily, a friend lived nearby and I stayed at her place that night. The next day, I went back to see if my dad had calmed down, but I found my things still on the sidewalk, and some even in the trash. My stepmother had kindly saved a few items for me and handed them over. After that, my dad never reached out, except to call and yell at me a month later when my mum stopped sending him money for my expenses. A few months later, I got into an engineering program in another state, where I met my now fiancé Mark, 29 male. He was a senior, and we soon connected, realizing we had a lot in common. We started dating, graduated, and now work in the same field, though at different companies. A few months ago, Mark proposed, and I happily said yes. I have social media, but I rarely use it. I've had Instagram for about 6 years, but haven't even posted 10 pictures. I think one of my relatives must have told my dad about the wedding, because about a month after I accepted the proposal, he reached out to me through Instagram, saying that he was excited to help with the wedding. I was surprised, both that he had messaged me and that he genuinely thought that he would walk me down the aisle. I responded, saying he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle because my stepfather would, and that the wedding would be small, just for my close family. After that, I blocked him. After blocking him, and inspired by reading Reddit stories, I expected calls, messages, and even letters full of insults like ungrateful or spoiled. However, the only thing I received was a letter delivered by Jake. Yes, we still have contact. In the letter, my father expressed how sorry he was. I won't copy the exact words, but to summarize, he said that after kicking me out, he lived a normal life with my stepmother and Jake, but when he saw pictures of my graduation with my mum and stepfather, he started feeling regret. He wanted to talk to me, but his pride held him back. He only decided to reach out now because he realized that his pride got him nowhere, and that he wanted to fulfill one of the plans that he made when I was born, to pay for my wedding and to walk me down the aisle. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've moved on with my life, and his attempt at redemption after so many years feels a bit too convenient. Am I the asshole for not wanting to include my dad in my wedding, despite his apology? Note, my stepfather is an amazing person. He always goes out of his way to include me in everything, and my stepsisters are wonderful as well. When he found out that my father hadn't taken me to Disney, he planned a trip for the next holiday and took me, along with my mother and sisters. This and 1,000 other reasons are why I want to walk down the aisle with him. Edit 1. People are asking why my mum and stepfather left me with my dad and what their jobs are. My mum works as a programmer and managed to get a job abroad. She thought that it was best to accept it, especially since she wanted to save up a good amount of money to cover college expenses and for the future. My stepfather is a researcher, and he was doing his postdoctoral work at the time. The first person to talk to me was my older sister, stepsister. 2 days after I was kicked out, she came to see me and even stayed for a few days, which I can barely remember because I was just crying. But I didn't move in with her because she lives in another state, and I was almost done with classes and final exams. So, my friend and bridesmaid let me stay at her house. Her parents helped me gather my things and even set up the guest room for me. Turmeric Ping says, "Not the asshole. Your bio father's regrets are his problem, not yours. Your real father, your stepfather, the man who treated you as your father should, is the one who should walk you down the aisle. That other guy is just a bad memory to put behind you." Copper Feather says, "Bio father treated OP like a pet that he didn't want. Stepfather treated OP like his third daughter. Biofather multiple times deliberately excluded OP from family trips. Stepfather went out of his way to include OP in his trips. Biofather kicked OP out of his house, yet still expected to be paid. Stepfather did not act like a douchebag. There is no contest here. Phyricist says, not the asshole. Your sperm donor gets to live with the consequences of his own actions. OP says, I liked this word, sperm donor. And yes, he'll reap what he sowed. Here Comes the Sun says, not the asshole. He isn't remorseful, he's jealous and has his nose out of joint that another man will be taking what he sees as center stage, and his actual role of shittiest father will be exposed without you needing to say a single word to guests or on stepmother. Sod him. Have a wonderful wedding and a happy marriage. Yeah, interesting that he can socially isolate you as much as he wants, continually embarrass you and demean you to your face that you're not actually a part of this family, hold over your head the trip to Europe with the false hope that, oh my god, she's getting her hopes up. It's going to be so funny when I smack her back down to earth and say, you don't deserve this, you ungrateful, spoilt little peasant. Now I'm going to bring my real family, my real son with me, and you can get bent. And then the cope, the absolute cope of saying, oh, well, my pride got in the way. I was going to apologize because, I felt regret after kicking you out of the house callously when I caused this reaction from you because of my shitty actions. Oh, it was my ego. My ego wouldn't let me come and apologize to my real daughter, but, I really want to be a part of your wedding because I feel like I've earned that. No, you absolute scum of the earth piece of shit. You, OP's sperm donor, deserve misery and sadness for your pathetic little life that you're living. Go back to your hole, go to sleep, and forget that your daughter ever existed. Absolutely not the arsehole OP. He deserves it. And now, onto the update. So I'm back with an update, but first, let me explain why I'm using a different account. The account I originally posted from belonged to my friend. I'm not very active on social media, so I didn't create an account just to post something that I didn't expect would get so much attention. I thought there would be, at most, one follow-up to share whether or not I invite my dad to the wedding. However, some people started asking why there were inconsistencies, like the age difference, or why I mentioned my parents were married in one post and not in this one. Well, that's why. The story you read belonged to my friend, the same friend who let me stay with her. She also encouraged me to share my own story since I wanted opinions from neutral people, not those close to me or my dad, and wow, did I get a lot of feedback. Now, regarding the comments, I want to thank everyone for helping me see things I hadn't noticed before, especially in how my dad's letter was written. For those wondering, yes, he mostly talked about his feelings and how he felt. Very little was said about me, and even less was about apologizing. He also mentioned how I'm his only daughter, while my stepfather has 2 daughters to walk down the aisle, but he only has me. For those asking why I didn't move abroad with my mum and stepfather, they were supposed to be away for 3 to 5 years, with my mum likely needing to change companies every year. My stepfather was also deep in his research, so their lives were pretty unstable. At the time, I didn't anticipate how much I would suffer or that I would be kicked out. I think the rare times that I spent with my dad and the feeling of being left behind would fade whenever I was with my mum and stepfather. This cycle became my routine, which is why I stayed with my sperm donor. And for those asking if my mum knew what was going on, I only told her about the Disney incident. I didn't want to bring issues from one home into another. Now for the update. For some background on my mum, she returned 2 years after I started college, and my real dad came back a year after that. It was my sisters who attended my high school graduation. My mum now lives 2 hours away, so I went to visit her to discuss what had happened and to get her and my stepfather's thoughts on the situation. My mum said that it was something that I had to decide on my own and that she wouldn't interfere. My stepfather told me he'd help pay for the wedding regardless of what I choose to do. And yes, he's helping with some expenses. My sisters, on the other hand, share the same opinion as most of you, to not invite him and to send him a letter detailing everything that I went through. My older sister, let's call her Lisa, was the most against inviting him. Lisa was the first person to check on me. Today, I learned that on that same day that she came to see me at my friend's house, she also stopped to talk to my dad. She hadn't mentioned it before because, according to her, he only spouted nonsense, and sharing it at the time would have just made things worse for me. That's why she's completely against me reconnecting with him. For those curious about what he said, she didn't go into details, but mentioned that it angered her so much that she ended up shouting at him, calling him every name under the sun. She thinks this may be one of the reasons he didn't reach out sooner. She thinks that added fuel to the fire. We talked a lot, not just about my dad, but about myself as well. I realized that even with the therapy I went through during college, there was something important I hadn't done. I never truly opened up to my parents. I always thought that I had to face and overcome everything alone. All I did, though, was bottle everything up. Today, I was finally able to unpack it all and share my feelings. After a lot of tears, I hugged them both. And here's what I've decided. I will respond to his letter. Unfortunately for Mark and Lisa, it won't be the harsh response that they were hoping for. I'll take some of your advice and express how I felt when he kicked me out. I'll be polite, but honest. I'll also let him know that my stepfather will walk me down the aisle because that's what I want. I won't offer further explanations to him. After all, this is my wedding with Mark, and it will be exactly how we want it, without the need for justifications. I will not accept any money from him, nor will I send him an invitation. If my dad truly wants to reconcile, he can reach out to me through Jake, but only after the wedding, or honeymoon, and it will be on my terms. As someone suggested, we're going to hire security for the wedding, no matter how my dad reacts. For those wondering, yes, Jake has been invited. As I mentioned, we still have a good relationship, and he's allowed to take photos. New Target says, "Well done. He doesn't deserve anything, but you can be a bit harsh in your letter, even brutally honest. That's what he deserves." Corfiz74 says, "Yes, please, be very, very direct about what he put you through." He also mentioned how I'm his only daughter, while my stepfather has 2 daughters to walk down the aisle, but he only has me. I would tell him that he very explicitly told you that you were not family. So now, in fact, your stepdad has 3 daughters and he has none. If he's not around for your hard times, he can't be around for your good times. Simple as that. He is narcissist scum. Don't let him back into your life. He'll only bring chaos. Good luck with everything. I hope your wedding day goes beautifully. These kinds of people always want to be invited for the big events because they think they deserve the recognition and don't want to be embarrassed by people asking about their absence. But truthfully, if this was about a genuine reconciliation, he would do it on a regular day, not start making demands to be included in your wedding day. Yeah, as people pointed out there, it was not a genuine letter. He's not actually genuinely remorseful. He just doesn't want to be embarrassed. He doesn't want his ego to be hit by his absence and people asking questions. To me, that just makes this even worse because you then can't read his letter as anything but him trying to save face. He'll probably just disappear again after the wedding if he gets his way, being in the wedding party. And anyone that falls for that would be a sucker and would be ruining their own life for no reason. Or just wasting their time, wasting their emotions, wasting their hope, because that man is a monster. He only cares for himself. He only cares how he looks. He does not care about his daughter, who he has harmed. That is not someone that needs to be forgiven, should be forgiven, or allowed into your life in any capacity. Keep him well away. And thank you, as always, for the story, OP. I'd love to know what you guys think about this one in the comments down below. My husband is cheating on me with our best friend. They don't know that I know, but I caught them making out at the end of our driveway when he was seeing her off after dinner with our family. We live in a small acreage, and the driveway is a long way off from the main house. She had forgotten some crockery at the house, and I decided to walk it over, because, for some reason, the two of them always took a while to say goodbye, and now I know why. That's when I saw them lit by the car's headlights, making out in the front seat with our best friend straddling my husband. In shock, I didn't know whether to throw her Pyrex at the car or just walk away. I decided the latter and was too shocked to cry or be angry. When my husband got back, I had to pretend like everything was normal. I know that it's stupid, but I couldn't sleep that night and decided to go through his phone. She was obviously under a pseudonym, but I found a handful of their messages dating 2 or 3 years back. Her husband doesn't know. He's currently posted overseas as a diplomat. I'm sick with rage and betrayal. I'm lost and have no idea what steps to take next. Successful Raise says, collect proof before you blow your lid. It'll give you options. Yes, and back them up too, so he can't delete all the evidence. And then, OP will have to be really strong and see this through. The confrontation and the separating of her life from his and hers. Logistics first, grieve later. Cheaters lie. They will trickle truth, blame shift, and deflect. It's not going to be pretty. OP, be prepared to not recognize who they turn into upon confrontation. It's not going to be easy, but you will get through this. I'm very impressed that you pretended that you hadn't seen anything. I wouldn't have been able to. You need to book appointments with a divorce attorney so they can explain to you what your options are. You should document the cheating because that can help for the divorce. Can you take a video of you scrolling the discussion thread messages? I know there is a lot of justified rage in you, but you have to stay rational and clear throughout that process. Lead with your head, not your gut. Stay cool and destroy his sorry ass with the law. And then tell your best friend's husband who he is really married to. I would want to know that my spouse is a piece of shit so I can get out of there instead of staying married. From human being to human being, I'm sorry this happened to you. Good luck. Pretty much all of that, OP. Absolutely do your best to cover your bases and keep the charade going until you blow everything up. As you should. And that's just going to be advice I'm going to keep repeating because there's always new people that come into, communities like this that need this advice, that are looking for answers to their bad situations. So I hope in the update you take the advice and we can show people how effective that advice really is. Back up to the post, we have an update. Whoa, didn't expect this much support. It's really overwhelming. Just to clarify a few things, this is a private account I created just for this post, away from my usual account, because I was scared that it would be traced back to me. I want to remain anonymous as much as I can. I don't live in the US, but in Australia. Technically, I can't file for divorce immediately, as you need to be separated for 1 year and 1 day to file officially. My now ex-best friend just recently returned to the country. Her father has cancer after being posted with her husband overseas. The dinner was to welcome her home, and what a welcome. There's some comments here about the headlights illuminating them. Sorry, I meant overhead lights. As to what I'm going to do now, a part of me just wants to confront my husband, see what lame excuse he has, but I need to get away from him. This level of betrayal physically hurts. I can't help but think of all the times we spent together over the years, and for how long our families were fooled. My mind is going crazy. When she was single and he would rescue her from some bad date, or the times they were alone in my house when the kids and I were out. How irrationally angry he was when he found out she had a boyfriend and then chose to marry him. Thinking back on it, the two of them disappeared at her wedding. When I asked him where he was, he said he needed to reassure her that she had done the right thing. I feel so sick thinking of these things. Update 2. Thank you to everyone for your concern and advice. As of tomorrow, my husband is out of town. I've tried really hard to act normal around my now ex-best friend, but it's proving difficult and I feel sick. I've been telling both of them that I've caught some terrible bug and just not feeling myself. While my husband is out of town for the next few days, my sister-in-law, who is the only other person who knows, she's my brother's wife, will help me pack important documents and store them somewhere that my husband doesn't know about. I've organized for my kids to stay with them for a week while I sort my shit out. I've spoken to a family lawyer, and they've told me that the best way to start the separation procedure is to no longer be living under the same roof. I'm fortunate in that most of our assets are also in my name, and the land our house is on was gifted to us by my parents. I'm planning to kick him out after his trip, but before that, I want to catch them both in the act again. Have some hard proof, send it to my ex's friend's husband, and get the ball rolling for moving on with my life. I'll update with what happens after the confrontation. Final update. My husband came home 2 nights ago from his trip. While he was gone, I had organized a lot of the important documents, e.g., financial, birth certificates, passports, anything that he could potentially use to try and get more than what he deserves. They are now safely stored, and my kids have been staying with their aunt and uncle for the past few days. I had packed all of my husband's things, and he's been really good at keeping his tracks clean because there was no evidence of his affair within his stuff. I placed all his belongings in the garage, ready for the confrontation with him. I was super nervous because I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. Once he came home, and I remembered seeing him kissing our best friend, I remembered the deep hurt they had caused. I was in our kitchen when he came home, and he knew straight away that something was wrong. During that week, I had been distant and had barely answered his texts and screened his calls. I did answer every now and again and gave the kids a chance to speak to their dad. He asked me why I haven't been responding to his texts, and he tried to kiss me, but I turned away. And before I knew it, the first things that came out of my mouth were, "I want a separation." I have to admit that he didn't look very surprised when I said it. He nodded his head and said, "What do you know?" Which was just a punch in the gut, because I wanted him to deny it or say something like it was a one-off thing. I asked him to tell me everything, like when did it start, and he said they started about 10 years ago. At first it was flirtatious messaging and a sneaky kiss in the office when they briefly worked together, and the affair was on and off. She apparently always felt guilty, and her way out of that was to marry the next man that was interested in her and proposed. He admitted that they had sex on their wedding day, and when he is out of town, they meet. At this point, I couldn't breathe and I was sobbing. I hated that the next words out of my mouth were, "Did you even ever love me?" He hesitated and said, "Yes, of course," but was never in love with me the way that he was with her. I cleared my throat and had said to him that he should tell her husband. There is no point hiding it anymore. I told him that all his stuff was in the garage and he can find somewhere else to stay. I let him know that I've spoken to a family lawyer, and I told him that when I feel ready, and only when I feel ready, will we see each other again and talk about the future arrangement with the kids. I said any further communication can be done through my sister-in-law or my brother. I said he's allowed to see the kids, but only at their place. I'm of course wanting full custody of the children because it hurts too much to give him anything at this point. He agreed to all of my points because he knew he was in the wrong. He tried to say sorry, and then I absolutely lost my shit and screamed, "No effing no way are you sorry. For 10 effing years, you have both deceived everyone we know. Please take your shit and leave and tell that woman you have been effing for 10 years that I do not ever want to see her effing face again." Certainly not my shining moments, but also a culmination of all the hurt and anger over text the last few weeks that they have caused. I have no intention of talking to my ex-best friend, or really to my soon-to-be ex-husband, until I have the time to grieve. So thank you, community, for the encouragement and advice. Hope I can heal and move on from this. And now onto the latest update, which was a year later. It's been a crazy, painful year, but our divorce had been finalized and I'm free. My ex-husband and my ex-best friend, as no one should be surprised, are now in an actual relationship after the ex-best friend's husband found out about the affair. He divorced her, and since then, we've met up for coffee to check in on each other and our mental health. He's been great, and has been sending encouraging messages, and he lives overseas, and from his Facebook updates, has started dating again. So I'm very happy for him. The legal and custody battles have been fairly stressful, but the ex-husband agreed to all my terms, and the custody of the children was the only thing that he really fought for. I have custody of the kids, and he sees them on the weekends. The kids, including myself, have all been going to therapy separately. My ex-husband wants to see them more, and during school break, the kids have the choice to stay with him or me. They've been good about it, and they stay with him for a week or so, and then back to their mummy. Apart from necessary conversation, I steer away from my ex-husband and the ex-best friend. It still hurts so much, and I understand that it will take some time to heal. but I am letting go because I don't want them to have that level of influence over my life. I decided to sell the property that we were living in and move closer to family and friends because, as you know, it takes a village. And I've been extremely grateful for the support I've received over the last year. I'm tearing up just as I'm writing this, knowing that I couldn't go through all of this without my loved ones. And as for myself, I'm happy overall. Still a work in progress, but grateful for life. The kids and myself have been enjoying life, and when we have the time and the money, try and take little trips here and there, so that the traumatic events of the divorce don't linger and can be replaced by good memories. Memories where they spent road trips and adventures with their mum. Haunting Extension 24 says, I'm glad that you are now moving on. Did she ever try to reach out to you after? That man's a dog, and I hope they never last. Rosebud 2911 says, OP is so gracious. I personally wish that karma gets the ex-husband and ex-bestie bad, but most importantly, that OP is happy and thriving. Onion Man says, cheating on your wedding day is next level scumbag. Advanced scumbag. Jesus. Mosource says, 10 years is insane. Any cheaters reading this, please just break up, get a divorce, whatever. Just leave the person that you're cheating on. What you were doing is beyond selfish. You were tricking them into an exclusive relationship while you were dating whoever. You were using their trust in you against them. It's disgusting. Right? 10 years? 10 effing years? Holy shit, just divorce. Negative Bottle says, they wanted OP as a broodmare and babysitter. That's why they keep it to themselves all this time. I wonder if she also made more money than him. Pieces of shit. Unfortunately, a tale as old as time, this kind of situation, I guess all you can do, as the wronged party, is to name and shame them so they stop affecting you. They leave your life. You know, they get the comeuppance they deserve. I was going to say it's not the best update overall because there wasn't karma delivered to those two, but I think that's unrealistic. I think this is as good as you can really hope for. It sounds like an amicable separation. He's not stalking or harassing OP. The only thing he did was, contest the custody arrangement, which I think is understandable. But I personally, my bias is I don't think he has any right to do that. He should get what he's given because what he's done to her and to those around him is incredibly disgusting. But hey, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner, so that's just my opinion. That does not reflect reality. As always, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I very much enjoyed that. And I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Let me know. Our next post is by user ThrowRA age 7950, titled, Neighbor 40 female keeps showing up unannounced to my 24 male house. So I recently moved into a new house in a small gated community over the summer. This is the first time I've lived in a house since I was little. When I moved in, I received a lot of welcome gifts from my neighbors since it's a very tight-knit community. This is how I met most of my neighbors, including Dana and her husband. Dana is my next-door neighbor. The first time we met, Dana came to my front door with her husband and 3 sons to introduce themselves. They brought me homemade cookies as a welcome gift. Her sons were really into dirt bikes and saw mine in the garage as I was moving in. I told them they could come over and check them out anytime they wanted. I was being nice. Dana never really said anything or gave out any red flags. The next week, I was at work and got a notification from one of my cameras. It was a video of Dana by herself looking into a window on the side of my house. I maybe thought that she was checking to see if I was home and didn't think much of it. Then I get a text from her later in the day asking when I would be home since her sons wanted to come over and check out my bikes. I replied that I would be working late, and she responded that she would let her sons know. Nothing ever really happened for a few weeks. The second event was a Saturday night that she knocked on my front door and asked if I would like to come over for dinner. I didn't really have much going on, so I said sure. I go over to her house, and I'm expecting her family to be there, but nope. It was just her. She said that her family was visiting another family member. I didn't want to be rude, so I ended up staying. Dana is a big talker, so I barely got a word in that night. It felt strange, but it was just a conversation. I saw her husband Chris a few days later while checking the mail, and he asked me if I enjoyed Dana's cooking. I responded that it was great, and I wish he could have made it, so I guess he knew about us having dinner and was fine with it. The third event was a few days ago. My camera caught Dana walking into my backyard by herself, looking into my shed. I confronted her on the phone, and she said she was just looking for a shovel. I informed her that my tools were in the garage and made sure to let her know that I can see everything on my cameras. She apologized for not asking me before coming over. She later that day sent me a picture of my boat in my driveway, asking if I could take her out in it, and I left her unread. The latest event happened last night. I had my somewhat new girlfriend over at the house. We were grilling in the backyard, having a good time, when all of a sudden Dana shows up with her boys and literally self-invited her family to dinner. It was extremely awkward for everyone. I tried telling them that I didn't have enough for everyone, but Dana claimed that her family wasn't that hungry. Dana didn't leave until my girlfriend left. I'm extremely confused if Dana is into me or just has no social awareness. The only thing at this point that keeps me from straight up confronting her is that we are neighbors and have to live next to each other. Her husband has been nice and doesn't give off any strange vibes. What do I tell her to leave me alone? Do I need to wait for her to do something again? Please help. Magic Tube Socks of Joy says, get blinds for your windows and keep them shut. Motion sensor lights, no trespassing signs, get a security system, and just call the cops. Going into your property, looking for a shovel, is just testing the waters. Give her an inch and she'll take a mile, and your life will be misery. Better she hates you than steals from you. OP says, I have blinds on the house. In the video, it looked like she was trying to find a window that was open. When I was first moving in, I left my garage open and went to lunch. A box of my clothes labeled clothes was missing. At the time I thought maybe I lost it in the moving process, but now I think she had something to do with it. Oh, holy shit. Nightmare scenario. And OP replies, I asked 2 different neighbors about her, and they both said that Dana was an awesome neighbor to have. Fairy Competent says, be more forceful. Stop answering the door when you're not expecting anyone. Get comfortable with closing the door in their faces. Whatever is going on, you want less of it in your life. Be standoffish to the point of rudeness, because their behavior has absolutely crossed from weird to rude as hell. And no more get-togethers. If invited, just say no thanks, without explanation, excuses, or embellishment. I agree. That's very creepy behavior from her, and at first I thought she was just, trying to have sex with you, in a way. Which is gross, and it's kind of crossing a lot of lines there, especially if her and her husband have not kind of, talked to you about it first or slowly approached that. It's just wrong. It's weird. And with everything else going on with their behavior of just slowly testing your boundaries and seeing what they can get away with, going forward, I can only imagine this is going to escalate and get a lot worse. You need to take the advice of the comments here and shut that shit down hard and fast. Because I only see this going wrong. I never see this getting better. And now, onto the updates. Wow, wasn't expecting the original post to blow up the way that it did. I would like to thank everyone for their advice. Turns out that the people who said that she was into me were right. Dana texted me last Thursday, letting me know that their family was going out of town for the weekend. She said that she would be lonely and wanted to know if I'd keep her company. She said something like she's grateful to have such a young and strong man in her life, referring to me. I'm 90% sure that means she's into me. I politely declined by telling her that I would be with my girlfriend. Friday nights, I'm chilling with my girlfriend at home, and Dana knocks on the door. I'm so thankful for my girlfriend because she let Dana have it. We didn't hear anything from Dana for the entire weekend. I guess now Dana is mad because she issued an HOA violation for my trash cans being in the wrong place. Also, the other night, she was taking pictures of my girlfriend's car parked on the street for whatever reason. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of my neighbors who let me know that Dana and her husband are apparently in an open relationship because her husband is bi. Anyways, not really my problem, and I'll just deal with them as my neighbors. Ever since my girlfriend had that talk with her, she hasn't been on my property. Thanks again for the help. Bleacher Blonde says, I'd go to the HOA and threaten them with a sexual harassment suit if she keeps up with the fines and pictures. A dude from Masspot says, yes, but make sure you frame it to the HOA as they are enabling her harassment. They are a vehicle for her harassment. They are making you feel attacked and harassed for not having sex with her. You plan to hold them liable for it. Don't let them tell you that it's between you and her. Tell them that if they continue, you'll be sending them a certified letter with the same information so that you have it on record that you notified them of their role in harassing you. Togar Suck says, good thing she's dumb enough to do it over text. Contribution for a Friend says, you might have to lawyer up because she will make your life miserable. Save those texts. Have someone testimony your side. Make sure your cameras also record audio and make a diary of things she's overreacting to as an HOA. Things will escalate at some point, and you might have to order a protective distance from her and another pointed HOA to supervise your house. Remember to check those HOA rules, item by item. And that's very much good advice, OP. You should not be standing for that harassment. You should not be dealing with her continued escalation of bullshit, abusing the HOA rules just to get back at you. And that's also not to say fight fire with fire by doing the same to her. I don't think that would resolve the issues. I think that would make it a lot worse. Go the legal route, go the proper route, take the higher ground, and take that HOA down with you if you can. Let's dismantle HOAs. They do not sound like a good time. I do not like that concept at all. But as always, thank you for sharing the story. I hope it all goes well going into the future. Doesn't sound great, but doesn't sound like the worst thing either. And I'd also love to know what you guys have to say about this one. Let me know down in the comments below. Am I overreacting? Girlfriend deleted all of our photos together. My girlfriend, 25 female, and I, 26 male, are in a rough patch right now after I found her talking to an ex-fling behind my back, but have both committed to try to work through it. During this time of working on us, she deleted all of our pictures off of social media. I told her that it hurt my feelings that she did this, and she said she deleted many pictures, not just ours, and was considering deleting the app altogether because it felt weird posting anymore. About 2 days after this talk, she posted several photos of just her and a few of her dog. I feel so juvenile being hurt by this, but I have a hard time reading this as anything other than an attempt to hurt me or an attempt to start moving on. It just feels counterintuitive to the process of rebuilding trust, and I feel if I bring this up to her, then she'll get defensive and combative. Hablo Senor says, she's testing the waters. Dump her and move on. Sun Panda says, yup, she's done with you, homie. Be thankful for the good times y'all had. Spare yourself and her the hateful talk about wasted time because it wasn't wasted. Your time with her is simply just done. Think about it. She got busted for talking to someone she used to F around with, and now she's deleted your pictures. Don't let her fool you. Hit the gym and stay hydrated. Low Profile 47 says, she deleted it because she didn't want others to know about the relationship. In short, she's testing new territories and leaving you as a plan B if it doesn't work out. She's already cheated on you, as you said, and I'm 100% sure she's there again. She wants some advice? End it for good and preserve your mental health. At the right time, you will find someone right for you. How long have you been together? And OP says, 6 months. Midwest MSW says, cut your losses. The disrespect. She's looking to see if the other side is greener. Yep, absolutely. Agree with that. A break does not mean you delete all evidence of the relationship. That's crazy, especially 6 months in. Like, the relationship is still in its honeymoon phase, and there is this much discontent, there is this much instability between you two, and she's already talking to someone that she used to mess with. I don't think you're in a relationship at all. It sounds like you were in a relationship with her, but not the other way around. As everyone else has said, time to cut your losses. You didn't waste your time. Just your time is up and it's time to move on, OP. You're not overreacting at all. It's a perfectly reasonable reaction to have. Now you need to process that and separate entirely and move on. And now, onto the updates. You guys were right. She was moving on. She was telling me that we were working on things, but we needed to take it gradually. I continued to try to work on our relationship for about a week and a half after making my post. I was riddled with anxiety and hoping that she felt things were moving in the right direction, texting her nice messages throughout the day, doing small acts of kindness to try to uplift her. We were planning on moving in together around the new year, and she started acting weird about it, saying things like, "You don't need to rush getting your place ready for me." We started seeing each other less and less and talking less and less as she told me she needed time and space. When I did hear from her, she would ask me for favors or money. I had some work done on her car because it was unsafe and I didn't want anything to happen to her. Paid for her to enroll in college because she was stressed about her life not being on track. She was going to accept $1,000 to help with her last month's rent. Thank God I didn't give it to her. She wanted me to help her with another $1,000 hospital bill. Thank God I didn't. A few days ago, my anxiety reached a head and I logged into her Instagram account. She's been telling people that she's moving back to her home state next month for weeks. She was FaceTiming her ex at 1 a.m. She was getting everything ready to leave me and having me help, pay for it, and anxious at home missing her. We are done now. I collected my things from her place while she was at work and texted her what I found. She got defensive and verbally attacked me for going on her Instagram and going to her place unaccompanied. I blocked her on everything except her number. She blocked my number. I know it's for the best that I have my answers and that we're done, but I stupidly still miss her. I think about her all the time. This hurts. Bombshell Puka says, "It's okay to grieve the end of a relationship, even if it was for the best. Be kind to yourself and allow yourself time to heal." Full Frontal says, "I just can't imagine myself grieving this. She sounds awful." And OP says, "It's only the bad showcased here. In hindsight, yes, I ignored and tolerated things I shouldn't have, but loving someone makes you overlook things you shouldn't, and the good times did exist. Trying to spend less time thinking of those good times these days." Relative Standard 69 says, "Please don't ever think that the next time you give your heart to someone that they don't deserve the exact same treatment you have given this ex. You sound like a wonderful partner and a lovely human. Someone will be so lucky to have you and they will be so worth it. Your ex sounds awful and no doubt will get their karma. You know that you gave her the world and it wasn't enough. Don't let her treatment of you make you bitter. My concern would be for you to think that all women are like this, etc., and they aren't. There are so many amazing women who will be worth all of this nonsense. I'm sorry that you were hurting. Breakups are the worst. But why not organize some sort of a solo trip to help heal and reflect? If you like the outdoors, look into camping. If you like the city/party, then go to a new one and book a hotel and just treat yourself." OP replies, "Thank you so much for your kind words. This was uplifting and needed. I think that a solo trip is a great idea. I need to recenter myself." Absolutely, OP. Go to Japan. I love Japan. That's a good place to get over a breakup, I think, because there's just so many things to do. You walk down one street and there's 10 different shops and random stuff. I think you'd be too distracted with all this entertaining and interesting stuff that you wouldn't have time to think about the breakup and all the good times, because you'd just be like, wow, everything here is so amazing. Man, the bad times really sucked, huh? Thank God I'm not there. But yeah, as Relative Standard said, please don't think that the next time you give your heart to someone that they don't deserve the exact same treatment. I do think that it's so easy to get caught up in situations like this, and then, when you're a hammer, everyone around you is a nail. To me, that's not a good mentality to fall into, and will only, exacerbate hurt in your life if you be a hurt person hurting other people. So have some self-awareness and do not repeat cycles. But, look forward to the next amazing person that's going to treat you amazingly. Our next post is by user SocietyTiny784, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's not allowed to bring her homemade food to Thanksgiving because her cooking is ruining the meal?" Every year, our family does a big Thanksgiving dinner, and we all typically bring a dish or two. My sister, who is a lovely person in every other way, insists on cooking something homemade every time. But the issue? She's not a great cook, and I don't mean just not great. I mean she's somehow managed to turn classic dishes into borderline inedible creations. For context, last Thanksgiving she showed up with her special recipe stuffing that was over-seasoned with random spices like cinnamon and cardamom. It was dry, and the flavors were confusing and totally off for stuffing. Only one person took a small bite, and the rest went untouched. Another year, she bought a green bean casserole that has some kind of strange, chewy texture. She later admitted that she used coconut milk and almond flour to experiment. No one wanted seconds of that either. This year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. Since I'm responsible for putting it all together, I wanted to keep the menu consistent so that people could actually enjoy a cohesive meal. I thought I'd avoid drama by asking her to bring non-food items instead, like wine, soda, or even some flowers. I explained to her, very kindly I thought, that I just wanted to make things easy and streamlined, and I would handle the main dishes. But she didn't take it well. She got offended and told me that I was being controlling and shutting her out of the family gathering. She then accused me of making her feel inadequate and said that Thanksgiving is about everyone contributing, not me deciding what is acceptable. I told her that everyone appreciates her efforts, but that she could contribute in other ways and still be a part of it. She doubled down and said she's bringing her famous green bean casserole, whether I like it or not. My mum and a couple of other family members have chimed in, saying I should just let her bring whatever she wants because it's Thanksgiving and it's the thought that counts. They're acting like I'm committing some huge offense by wanting the food to be enjoyable for everyone and not have random experimental dishes that no one will eat. But I feel like I'm just trying to keep the meals enjoyable and, frankly, edible. I don't think it's wrong to want guests to actually enjoy the food, especially since I'm putting in a lot of effort to host. Am I really being unreasonable here? Am I the asshole? Natural War 1261 says, "Let her bring it. Maybe she's been practicing and it's good. If not, maybe she'll get the hint. Let her bring what she wants, but make an actual alternative dish yourself for everyone to actually eat." I have a niece that used to do something similar, always changing or substituting some key ingredient so that it tasted awful. Star Mummy 41 says, "My mum does this. She's constantly asking for my recipe for something, changing the ingredients and making it awful, and then telling everyone that it's my recipe. I've started refusing to give her recipes. She is not putting my name on her awful creations." Vernon President says, "I've always avoided this by I'm host, my rules. For people that want to contribute, I provide suggestions and they pick one. No complaints have ever been listened to." And OP replies, "Honestly, I think that's the way to go. My house, my rules keeps things simple, and it avoids turning hosting into a juggling act of other people's demands. Giving suggestions is a great idea too, since it lets people contribute, but keeps things manageable and in line with the overall meal. I might have to take a page from your book in the future. It's clear that I've spent way too much energy trying to keep everyone happy. And sometimes, setting firm boundaries is just easier. Thanks for sharing. I'll definitely keep this in mind for next time." My mum definitely had a phase like this herself, and I just remember these god-awful banana bread brownies with almonds in them that she made, where she substituted flour for baking soda. I was like, what is this? What are you doing? Baking is a science. Baking is not a suggestion. Oh my god, that was one of the meals of all time, that's for sure. So yeah, if you're in the position to host family dinners, whoever is listening to this, I suggest listening to OP and the people in the comments. Make sure people follow My House, My Rules, because
I wouldn't want to subject you to the horrors of mankind that my mum subjected me to. But hey, if you guys love psychological torture, go ahead and just, no, my house, your rules. You can do that if you'd like.
Back up to the post, there is an update. Alright, well, things have escalated fast. Thanks to everyone who offered advice. I tried to compromise, but it's already turning into a whole thing, and Thanksgiving is still a few weeks away. After our last conversation, my sister was being pretty cagey about what she planned to make, so I reached out to my mum, hoping that she would help smooth things over. Instead, she got defensive, saying I'm overthinking and that it's just one dish. I told her I wasn't sure that it was just one dish anymore, especially after hearing about my sister's grocery haul, including canned oysters and edible glitter.
Oh man, I'm putting the dunce hat on the sister for that one. What the hell?
Then my mum let slip that my sister has been hard at work on some creative menu that she's planning as her Thanksgiving surprise. Apparently, she's been telling the family group chat, which I wasn't included in by the way, that I'm being controlling and that she wants to expand everyone's palate with something truly unique. Those are fighting words. To top it off, my cousin sent me a screenshot from the group chat where my sister said she's not bringing one, but 3 dishes to Thanksgiving now. She's calling them her Thanksgiving trio experience, complete with her own place settings and little menu cards that she's designing. I'm officially panicking because I have no idea what she's planning to serve, and from what I've heard, it's not remotely traditional. At this point, half the family thinks I'm overreacting, while the other half is texting me with things like, "Is she really bringing glittered sweet potatoes?" I feel stuck. If I try to control it anymore, I'm the bad guy. But if I don't, Thanksgiving might turn into a tasting event for my sister's avant-garde cooking. So yeah, Thanksgiving is weeks away, and it's already become a family spectacle. I don't know whether to brace myself or just preemptively order pizza. And now, onto the latest updates. Alright, so Thanksgiving is now a little over 2 weeks away, and somehow things have escalated even further than I thought possible. I thought maybe my sister's Thanksgiving trio experience would be the peak of the drama. Well, turns out I was wrong. Since the last update, my sister has become fully committed to making her dishes the main attraction. She's been dropping hints in the family group chat, which I'm still not included in, but shout out to my cousin for the screenshots, about how this Thanksgiving will be one to remember and calling it her Thanksgiving debut. She's apparently been referring to herself as the Thanksgiving head chef and has hinted that she's bringing some kind of culinary surprise centerpiece that will transform the whole experience. I'm sorry, but she sounds unhinged and crazy. I wouldn't be inviting her to the cookout. From what I can piece together, she's planning a main statement dish in addition to her original 3 side dishes. I'm picturing something equally bizarre, but on a much larger scale, and honestly, I'm terrified. If her green bean casserole was already pushing it, I can't even imagine what she thinks is worthy of being the centerpiece. Then, to make things even weirder, my mum texted me privately and suggested that I step back this year and let my sister shine, since she's so excited about her contributions. My mum thinks that if we just give her this moment, it'll make her happy and she'll get it out of her system. She even hinted that maybe I should focus on decorations and drinks instead of the main dishes, which feels like an attempt to turn hosting over to my sister without actually saying it. So now, I'm left with a choice. Go along with my mum's plan and let my sister essentially hijack Thanksgiving, or keep pushing back and risk a family showdown. I just wanted a nice Thanksgiving with dishes that everyone would enjoy, but it seems like I'm either about to hand over the whole meal to her or prepare for some serious drama. Thanksgiving isn't even here yet, and it already feels like a circus. I'm half tempted to just sit back and see what chaos unfolds, but part of me is still worried about subjecting the whole family to whatever artistic statement she has planned. Catfrog says, maybe suggest that the entire dinner will be either at your sister's house or your mother's house. That way you can go and just enjoy the chaos without having to clean up before or after. Just don't show up hungry. Eat before you go. And OP says, you know what? That actually sounds like a genius idea. If my sister wants to take over the spotlight so badly, hosting at her house would give her all the freedom she needs to showcase her masterpieces without me having to worry about the setup, the cleanup, or the fallout. Plus, I just get to sit back, relax, and enjoy the chaos like the rest of the family. I could even pitch it in a way to showcase her hard work without stepping on my toes as host. If my mum's already on her side, maybe she'd even help to make the transition happen. At this point, I'm not sure why I didn't think of this sooner. It's the perfect solution for her main character moment and my sanity. Thanks for the idea. This might just save my Thanksgiving. Wife of Bath 1984 says, I cannot figure out why you still haven't cancelled hosting. If she wants to take over, let her do it in her own space. Why would you go through all that trouble to host your family when your sister is actively planning sabotage? I would have already bowed out. Yeah, seriously, I don't get this. Honestly, if the sister is being as much of an asshole to have a family group chat without the host, basically planning to hijack OP's home, cancel Thanksgiving and have your own. Confront your sister, say an anonymous family member has made you aware of her intent to hijack her damn house, and if she is so set on hosting, she can host herself at her house. OP sure as hell doesn't deserve to be disrespected and have to be the one whose house will need to be set up, cleaned, etc. Screw that. OP can chill at home with pizza, with whatever family who is not an ass, so the cousin basically, because this is honestly just a ridiculous mess, and sister can face the music when all her guests at her damn house and not OP's sit there gagging, puking, or not eating at all. I'm looking forward to that update. I'm so sorry that update hasn't happened yet. Obviously, it's not Thanksgiving yet, so I can't just go into the future. But this was a lovely story, and I look forward to reading the update after this happens, because I want to know, does the sister host it at her house or not? That's going to be sick. I want the sister to host everything and to have really shit meals for everyone and have them have no option for better food at the house. She deserves that karma because she is stupid enough to walk into that trap. I cannot wait to cover it. That is going to be amazing. Thank you, OP, for sharing your family mess with us. I enjoyed it. And I'd love to know what you guys have to think down in the comments below. Let me know. Am I the asshole here for hating my wife's creepy hobby project? Okay, this sounds insane, but I swear my wife is totally normal otherwise, which makes this so strange to me. For context, we're both in our late 30s and live in a pretty typical suburban neighborhood where we all know each other. My wife has always loved trashy movies and shows about infidelities, and she eats up true crime about spouses killing their cheating partners too. She just says something about it makes her morbidly fascinated, in her words. Well, a couple of months back, we had a scandal in our neighborhood where a married couple in the neighborhood divorced because the husband cheated. No, there wasn't a murder or anything like that, but she became obsessed with learning every detail from every neighbor. No matter the occasion, be it a baby shower or a cookout, she would bring it up hoping that there would be any new information. A month later is when I stumbled on the board in her home office. I was doing some cleaning, and I found a massive bulletin board facing away, leaned up against the wall. Curiosity got the better of me, and I turned it around to find a literal conspiracy board of all our neighbors' pictures with lines of yarn connecting each other like the effing Pepe Sylvia meme. It's all connected. I was totally confused and asked what this was, and she told me that it was a hobby she had started recently where she would track rumors or likely candidates for cheating on the board. The yarn represented who was possibly cheating with whom. She had clearly gotten all the images on Facebook or some social media and printed them out, and even had a few sticky notes with details. I told her this was creepy and insane, and she said maybe if I was doing it as a man, but she is just having a harmless fun as a hobby and wouldn't be crazy and try to oust anyone based on rumors. She just likes feeling like a detective. She told me to view it like a creative art piece. I was still super weirded out, but I let it go. Or tried. I thought about it a lot. Well, every now and then I admit to checking the board when cleaning, but just a couple of days ago, I looked to see that now I was on the board with a yarn attached to a neighbor's wife that I'm casual friends with. I asked her why she would add me if she thought I was cheating, and she said that was a different yarn color for potential matches for cheating. She said if it makes me feel better, she was planning on adding herself to the board soon too. Well, I got pissed and kind of lost my temper about it. I told her to get rid of the board or our marriage will be in trouble. Things have been super rocky since. Sorry for the long post. I'm starting to feel bad, and it hit me more than usual this morning. Should I apologize to her? And before you ask, no, I don't suspect her of cheating. Honestly, I wish she was, because it would at least make more sense than this. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Shut Up I'm Lurking Bro says, I really couldn't see it getting weirder until she mentioned adding herself to the board. This is a strange game that your wife is playing, and it seems like an unhealthy obsession with infidelity. Right? Is this her way of admitting to cheating? I'm so confused. Not the asshole. I'm a big fan of true crime myself and can be nosy about neighborhood gossip, but I would use my yarn to crochet stuff while I watch or listen to true crime YouTube channels. It's absolutely creepy for her to print out pictures of her neighbors and then speculating about you and another neighbor. You don't have to be okay with whatever your spouse does. I would have done the same thing if I were in your shoes. I love me some true crime as much as the next, but this does seem like a bit of a confession to cheating herself, or at least thoughts of cheating. And then, I feel like if you let this thing go and she continues to spin her yarn on OP, she's going to think that he's cheating because of her conspiracy theories. I don't see this being a productive hobby that leads to a good outcome. It just seems like she's going to get more and more obsessed with cheating in her neighborhood. It is going to lead to fractures in the marriage, and OP is right for clamping down on it straight away. What is she thinking? Not the asshole here, OP. And now, on to the updates. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Firstly, I appreciate all of the concern and not the assholes. It gave me the courage to approach her and tell her that while I may have overreacted by threatening our marriage, I think it is a creepy thing to do. She apologized and said she would get rid of the board, and I thought we were good. Literally 2 days later, shit hits the fan. Our happily married next-door neighbor finds a woman's bra under the bed that does not belong to her. It doesn't take long for the whole neighborhood to find out. Well, my wife is giddy, like jumping up and down for joy. She shows me the board, which she still didn't trash like she promised, and of course the husband was marked with yarn, meaning he was likely to cheat. She told me that the board was accurate after all, and maybe she should keep her hobby around. I was definitely suspicious, so I looked at the board again later, and it looked different from the last time I saw it before the latest scandal. Instead of the yarn connecting to another neighbor, the cheating husband's yarn connected to a post-it with a question mark. Firstly, it was the only question mark there, and I swore it wasn't there last time I saw the board. So either she changed it after the cheating to prove a point, or slightly before it happened, which made me even more suspicious either way. Now I felt like I was the detective and I was going crazy. I went over to the cheating husband to ask a few questions. The wife was staying at her parents', so it was just the two of us. I asked him if he actually did it, and he said no, he would never. Then I asked if my wife had been over recently, and he said one day while you were at work, his wife asked her to water a plant they had while they were both away, and told her where the key was. So yes. I immediately raised an eyebrow. I asked if he still had the bra, and he was getting nervous and told me not to get the wrong idea. I said, don't worry. He still had the bra, and I looked at it. It was my wife's, but one that I knew she almost never wore, because it was from a lingerie set that I bought her one Christmas that she said was uncomfortable. I told my neighbor that I needed to talk to my wife, and ran out, but I told him not to worry. I approached her with the bra and asked her what was going on. She played stupid, but I told her to cut the bullshit. I asked if she had either cheated on me with him or planted it there. Either way, she was in trouble. She confessed to planting the bra and said that it was to make me admit her hobby was valid or something. I flipped on her. I said this was worse than her cheating on me because instead of ruining just our marriage, she ruined our neighbors and ours. I demanded she call the wife and admit to everything, even sending pictures of the board. I even showed the Reddit post, which actually helped me convince her my wife had planted it rather than cheated with her husband. Well, they made up, but now I have no idea what to do. I am barely speaking to my wife, and it's only a matter of time before the entire neighborhood figures this out. I seriously need advice. In the comments, Hungry Druid says, there's, I am too interested in the neighborhood gossip, and there's, I planted a bra to ruin my neighbor's marriage and kept a detective board of cheaters. I could forgive the detective board and the gossip interest even if it's not my thing, but planting evidence for an affair is just cruel. Incredibly cruel. Who even thinks like that? Someone who has gone completely off the rails and gotten so caught up in their game of pretend that they forgot that these are actual people and not just NPCs. This girl really needs to just get The Sims and leave actual people alone. I thought her hobby was going to be collecting those Victorian death photos or bad taxidermy. Not sure whatever the hell this is. Dolls. I thought it would be creepy dolls, like the reborn corpse baby things, or something gruesome and Halloweenish. This is exponentially worse, what the hell? I have a doll collection in my bedroom, and photos with handwritten, by my grandmother, notes about who they belong to and where they came from. Nobody likes sleeping in my room but me. I think I need to make a yarn board with my great-grandmother, grandmother, mum and me and the dolls. Yeah, good luck with that one, OP. It seems like she has ruined your marriage, yes, which is an unfortunate circumstance here, but hey, you warned her not to do this, you tried to stop her before things got out of hand, and she chose to be a freak. Now she gets to deal with the consequences of her actions. Again, sorry that one happened, and thank you for sharing the story with us.